And, okay, we are live. This is the Bible Thumping Wingnut Google Hangout with Matt Slick that we have every Sunday here. I'm hosting this week. My name is John Brady, and it is a open hangout, or we're just question and answer kind of thing. There is no one particular topic. So let's see here. The link to join should be in the video here pretty soon. If I believe Tim's going to put it in there, or someone's going to put it in there. We just released it here too. So how you doing tonight, Matt? How things going?
Doing all right by God's grace. Just a little bit of shopping, and I've got two computers right now upgrading to Windows 10, and I'm on a third computer doing this. It's on Windows 7, and let's see, that's about it. Been working my rear off, and good news, I was able to retrieve our our YouTube Carm Videos account. It was locked out. We didn't have access to it for a better part of a year, 6 months, I don't know. And I spent 4 hours after one guy tried for a while. I spent several hours. I actually called up Google, and I got a really pleasant young lady on the phone right away, and she helped me out. And she gave me a couple of links to a couple of things. What that did was it put me in the right direction. So it took another couple hours after that, but I was able to stumble on it. Anyway, I got it done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put up an article on what I did and see if that might help anybody else who knows a lot of people having that problem. So that's a big success. Oh, and let's see, just for bragging, Thursday, it was Thursday or Friday? Thursday, I went fishing at a new spot, hooked 10 rainbow trout, landed 5 of them, was awesome. And want to go again tomorrow morning, we'll see. And that's about it. Besides working my rear off, everything seems to be going okay.
Oh, that's good. Have you have you done the Windows 10 on the computer? Are you just upgrading, or have you done it? Have you already upgraded some of your computers? Have you checked it out already? And what do you think of that?
No, I don't have any of it right yet. I have 9 computers in the house. And one of them is just now upgrading my one laptop. It's at 71%. Another one is at 47. I got a tablet and a laptop. The laptop I use in the radio station. That's what I bought it for. It needs to be quick. So anyway, upgrading. I'll check it out. And maybe I'll use my main computer here and go to 10. All depends. It's on 7 right now. I got 3 24-inch monitors. So I have a nice setup here.
Yeah, I did my laptop, and actually, if you Google it, I can't remember where I found it, but you could actually download it to a DVD, and that's how I'm going to eventually update mine, which was pretty good.
Yeah, we're doing that too.
Pretty good. Okay.
All right.
Let's see. We got the link in here to join now, so go to the video here and check it out. Looks like Tim posted that in there. So we also have Len. How you feeling, Len? You're gonna say something here?
Yeah. Hey. No, I'm good.
Man, the goatee's getting longer. What'd you do? You shaved? Did something different?
Yeah, I cut my hair, and I'm letting the beard grow.
Yeah. How'd your wife like it?
The whole family likes the beard. So yeah. I'm in that first 2-week itchy stage where I'm constantly combing, and then it'll be soft and fluffy.
And then she'll like it.
Yep.
Yeah, my wife doesn't like it when I grow a little something. She says, "No, it's too itchy." Where it is. And John, did you shave or something too?
Yeah, I shaved this a couple of weeks ago. I shaved because my wife was not happy with it, so I took off the little. I was trying all different things. I had a full beard, I had a little thing, and she didn't really she didn't really like it. So I said, okay, I'll just shave the whole thing. She seems to be happy with it. So
you know how the ladies are. It basically comes down to if I have a full beard or whatever, no much less smooching. So yes. It had to go.
Yes, and what they say, happy wife, happy life.
Yes, yes, that's yeah. 1 Peter 3 is what we'll get into that.
Okay, got a question from
how can you call yourself reformed and not have a beard, though?
By having a reformed wife, who's a great cook, who says, "I won't kiss you much if you." Okay, it's gone.
Right.
That's right. That's right. Well, I think she heard that. She chuckled. Go over there. You come on over and say hi, Neek.
Yeah, tell her to say hi. Tell her to come over and say hi.
She wants to see. They want to see you on the camera.
Yeah.
Neek. Come on. Come on. Oh no, you're fine. Look, trust me, you're babylicious.
Tell her we'll get more views. Say more people will hear the gospel of Jesus Christ if she comes on. Come on.
Yeah,
that's right. People
it's
prefer
a gospel
pretty
thing.
Yeah, they like pretty over this. Here she comes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on, it's okay. It's got his cokes. Okay, come on, Dan. You can see, barely see you.
Hello.
That's it.
It's just
wives. Camera shy. All right.
Is your wife a theological woman? Does she like to study theology with you?
No, she does not study theology at all. She doesn't do anything like that, but she knows stuff because she's heard me for 28 years defend the faith. So she's picked up a lot of stuff. And what we want to do at CARM, we're having to redo a few things. Well, I got some stuff I could tell you, but at any rate, it'd be really entertaining. In fact, maybe I'll read some stuff. You won't believe what was said. But nevertheless, we had to do some changes at CARM. And one of the things I'm hoping is that Anique, my wife's name is Anique, and it's a French name, and we call her Nique for short. So one thing I'm hoping Nique does is start reading the articles for theological accuracy, because she knows a lot. In fact, at church today, the pastor actually, if what she remembered was accurate, and I'll tell you what he said, because I was researching something on my computer in John 17. That's what chapter we were in, John 17. I was looking up the word given and seeing, I've really got something interesting about given I'm working on. But at any rate, so I was working through that, and she said on the way home, "Did you hear what he said about the?" I go, "What?" "Yeah, what he said." I said, "What?" "That God loves us because we loved him."
Oh, that's kind of backwards.
Oh, wait. He loves us because we're saved? That's what he said. No, okay, which is it? He loves us because we believe. That's the word she used earlier. Okay, she could try and find it. And I'm like, what? So she's going to verify if it is. I'll be talking to him.
Huh.
So, like, did you mean to say that? And we all say things that from the pulpit, and you go, "I said that?" Once I actually said from the pulpit, "Jesus is not God." I said that once.
Whoops.
Yeah, and the elders were smiling later because they knew, they just knew.
Yeah, they knew that you didn't mean to say that.
Yeah, I didn't mean to say it. I messed up. Yeah. Oh, look at that. Okay.
I used to edit the messages when I was in Illinois before and I'd have to listen to them as like a, someone who's been a believer for a while, someone who's a new believer, and someone who's never heard anything. And sometimes I'd sit down with the pastor, I'd be like, "You realize if someone doesn't know the Lord, that when you said this, they're going to think this." And he's like, "Oh yeah." He's like, that's kind of, we might want to reword that. There's been a couple times where I've cut little things out he didn't mean to say, right? And because you don't want people misunderstanding that.
No, we don't. It happens, though. We all have messed up public speaking. I've certainly done that. So.
But when you can cut it out, when you have the technology, why not? We were talking. We've been going lately to like 3 in the morning after the hangouts, the last couple weeks. So after you're gone, there was something that Rocco and I, well, a bunch of us were talking about, but Rocco that he brought up, and I know you don't like to usually talk afterwards, Rocco, but can you touch on what we were talking about what your church was addressing some stuff with the missionaries. I was wondering how Matt would handle that, because eventually we as the church are going to have to deal with that the way that marriage and things are going. So you know what I'm talking about, Rocco?
Yeah, I thought at first you were talking about the piracy issue.
No, not the piracy. No.
No, Matt, my church, my denomination, we have a mission in the Sudan, and
Wow.
one of the issues they run in with is um, when some of the men convert to Christianity, they have multiple wives. So what do you
Yep.
do with all these wives?
They stay married.
Exactly. That's my position. They stay married. They should have no more. They
Right.
shall marry no more. But they made a vow to take care of their wives,
Yeah.
especially in that culture, where if you were to divorce a woman there, they would be basically untouchable. They
Right.
wouldn't. Basically, they would be defenseless, not be able to take care of themselves.
Right. Yeah. Stay
Whatnot.
married. Don't have any more. Then the issue of eldership would have to come up. Would they be
Right.
qualified to be elders?
No.
And then it depends. Biblically speaking, no, they wouldn't.
Mhm.
But then, what are you going to do in that situation where, let's just say everybody had multiple wives?
Mhm.
Then we'd have to work some special circumstances out. But at any rate, yeah.
Yeah, and I said that now that in our current culture and currently we're redefining what marriage is and isn't. Um, that might be a problem for us soon. And that
Absolutely.
I think the church needs to the church here needs to start looking toward that and start addressing this issue.
Yeah.
Not
Yes, it does.
not just in the mission field.
Yeah, I want to do a small series of articles, or I should, based on some of the issues that we're having to face as Christians. What do we do? How do we tackle the redefinition of marriage issues? Might be some good discussions to have on those, because in the counsel of many is wisdom, and just get a series. What do we do? And talk
Yeah.
about it. Yeah, and now that I got the Carm Videos access back, I wanted to start doing some more videos from here and start putting more up and address questions like that as well.
Yeah, I was praying for the whole Carm Videos thing, because the Matt Slick account, I kept getting test 1, the
Yes.
videos you were doing, and test 4, and I'm like,
Yes.
oh man, he still doesn't have access to the Carm videos, or he'd be doing something on there. So
Yeah, well, that's exactly what I was doing. I was at the test 5 and then got it.
yeah.
And so finally, I'm so jazzed. I stood up and I was like, yeah, whoa. I was moonwalking like that.
Dun, 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 dun. Yay!
I came in to see if
She
we were all
found
going to say a prayer for Cecil the lion.
Oh, jeez. You're trying to fan on here. Cecil the lion. That's really interesting, because, kids are being aborted. Planned Parenthood and its debacle of evil. And what's the big deal? It's about a lion. That's what's important. Let's talk about how bad that guy's for shooting a lion. Well, it was wrong, because, well, it was protected area, but still, that's what the news focuses on.
Yeah, they say Black Lives Matter, but those are only, not the starving kids in Africa. It's this
Right.
poor lion. It's really,
Right. Yeah.
yeah. It's I wrote a big long thing on my Facebook page about how I thought how ironic it was when the Bruce Jenner thing came out, and
I was sick of that.
that a week later, that woman, I can't remember her name now, but the woman who was in the NAACP, and she was
Yes.
ethnically white but pretending to be black, and then how society said, "Oh, that's against nature. You can't do that." But a week before, they're like praising this man, saying he was a
Right.
woman.
Oh,
That's
man.
not against nature.
Yeah, a little bit of hypocrisy there.
Yeah,
Not too
and
much,
then
but it's enough.
and then with this, we have all these Planned Parenthood videos coming out, and the president, her name Cecile, I think is how you pronounce her name, Cecile, coming out and defending her abortion mills, and then
Yeah, that's her name.
yeah, and people could care less about that, but then a week later, Cecil the lion dies, gets killed, and
Right.
it's a big uproar. And I just think it's ironic how God has shown the hypocrisy, the standards of the American society, what we actually feel
Bad.
is
That's bad.
precious, and what is not precious, and just showing it through the irony there.
Yeah, it's really bad. Our country is in bad shape. I'm really surprised to some degree why God hasn't judged us. But it's coming.
Who's to say he isn't?
Yeah, the judgment's already. There's different kinds of judgment, the hardening of the heart of people. I'm working on an article, a small article. Let's see. When people are subjugated, they do not rise up in resistance when their members are attacked. This is the first draft, so it's not polished. They remain passive because they don't want further problems. They're afraid of what might happen, so they endure the insults, the mockery, and the disdain that is regularly cast upon them. When they allow this to happen, hostility sometimes follows in increasing measure and frequency. The weak often get trampled underfoot by the strong who care not about God nor truth. And this is what's happening in our society here. And so I'm going through the Psalms and looking up Psalms. In pride, the wicked hotly pursue the afflicted. Another one, for behold, the wicked bend the bow. They make ready their arrow upon the string to shoot in darkness at the upright in heart. So I'm trying to get Christians to understand that we Christians are under attack and will be under increasing attack from the unbelievers. It's important that we learn to defend ourselves. And one of the things I think is a real travesty inside the Christian church is they're ignoring the second greatest commandment. Excuse me, the first commandment. The greatest commandment: love God with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind. And they're ignoring that commandment. They're not loving God with their mind. We have morons teaching on TV. We have idiots in pulpits all across America teaching feel-good theology. We have allowed Christianity to be hijacked by those who don't want anybody to do any thinking. No, thinking is not good. Don't study philosophy. Don't study logic. Don't study apologetics. Don't study theology, et cetera, et cetera. And so the Christian church has now been basically pacified, wimpified, feminized, and isn't really capable of defending itself very much. The few people who are capable, few apologists, and there's some pastors out there who can, they're just too far and few between. So we're going to become even more persecuted in this secularized culture, and the judgment of God upon that culture is manifested in applauding things like Bruce Jenner and decrying the issue of a lion that is killed instead of the millions of children aborted. The hypocrisy, the inconsistencies, the debauchery of mind and heart is just alive and well in America. We Christians better be praying. We better be preparing too.
Yeah.
And the church is going to be purified through all of it as well.
Yeah, I think the church is doing a lot of what the psalmist in Psalm 55 has cried for. Wished you had wings to fly away from all the persecution, all that, and just let the world just go on. We actually sang that psalm in church today. Yeah, it just kind of reminded me right there what the church, some of the church is doing.
Yeah, I was really surprised just searching the word wicked in the Psalms alone. The wicked spies upon the righteous and seeks to kill him. The wicked plots against the righteous and gnashes at him with his teeth. How long shall the wicked, O Lord, how long shall the wicked exult? They pour forth their words, they speak arrogantly. All who do wickedness vaunt themselves. They crush your people, O Lord, and afflict your heritage. And I was doing some research and some atheist stuff. Comedian Kathy Griffin, I don't know if you heard this, her 2007 Emmy Award acceptance speech said, quote, "A lot of people come up here and they thank Jesus for this award. I want you to know that no one had less to do with this award than Jesus. He didn't help me a bit. So all I can say is is I can't even say it. It's, well, I'll just say it. It's what she says. Suck it, Jesus. And this award is my God now. So she says this, and I didn't remember hearing an outcry about her bigotry and her hatred and her mockery and her disdain and her offensive words.
Mhm.
And yet, Hollywood is filled with people like this. It's, you know, I warn people, and sometimes on the radio I'll be talking to them and I'll be telling people, just listening, be prepared. You know, I feel like I'm the bad news bearer. And I'm always talking, you know, about things that are going wrong. But I try and tell people that the Christian church can do a great deal of good if it stops following Joel Osteen and Joyce Meyer and people like that, and start learning how to do what they need to do, defend that faith, and get out there and be aggressive in a godly way and knock down the gates of hell.
Well,
all over the place doing this.
the American mega church is just going to become the state church, you know,
Yeah.
where nominalism and lukewarmness will be embraced.
Right.
And anyone who goes to any form of Orthodox church that believes the Bible, it'll be the same as going to a KKK rally, you know.
Right. We'll go underground. What's going to happen is the church is going to be purified. So it takes a generation or two, generally speaking, but the church is going to be purified probably in the next 20, 30, 40 years. That's what I'm thinking. I don't know. I'm not a prophet.
I think it might be sooner than that, actually. It's
Yeah,
where
might
they're
be.
going.
Yeah, who knows what's going to happen. And then once it's purified, they'll really pray, and then God will raise up people. And so there are cycles of history that show this. All I can do is see what's going to happen. Pray.
Okay, let's see. Meowcat. It's Vincent, right? Is your name?
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah.
All right,
Vincent.
I remembered it. I cannot believe it. Yes, you got a question for Matt, my friend?
Yes. It's actually a question that I've run into this on multiple occasions, and I'm kind of curious if Matt Slick or any of you guys think about it from the same direction, I guess, or have the same take on it. I've seen a decent amount of atheists, maybe even more, and the not too distant past, talk about the supposed quote unquote flashcards or quote unquote script that particularly people who use presuppositional apologetics supposedly use. I'm actually kind of curious why you think they come to that conclusion. Why they think we're using flashcards or a script.
Because they're afraid. They're saying that, and several things we could talk about. But let's say we were, which we're not. I mean, I don't use scripts and all this stuff. But let's just say we were. Does that mean that it's not true? Do the atheists not go to websites and cut and paste their scripts of Bible difficulties and questions that they have, and then they dump them in? So a script is irrelevant to whether or not the issue is right or wrong. So they're just trying to dissuade people from using presuppositional apologetics. But let me tell you, presuppositional apologetics is deadly to them. They cannot deal with it. And so what's going to happen is they're going to attack it more and more. I was in an atheist chat room last week, I think it was, on Pal Talk. And immediately the atheist said, "Don't you dare try that presuppositional," and then, expletives with us, Matt. We'll just kick you out of here. And I just wrote, wait a minute. So you presuppose presuppositionalism is not good? And they didn't like that. But so yeah, they're afraid of it. It's very nice. The necessary preconditions for intelligibility. Go ahead.
Not only that, they're actually stealing it from us. I don't know if you remember from last week, that one atheist guy, he kept saying, you have to borrow from our worldview.
Yeah, I heard that. I was laughing.
I know. And it was like, wait, no, that's presuppositional on our part.
I'd love him to come back in tonight and just have a nice discussion with him. So atheism's a worldview, huh? Okay, let's list out some of the elements of the worldview. I'll just List them out. Come on, Mr. Atheist, tell us. Are you the atheist representative so that you know what the atheist worldview is? And what are the presuppositions in there? And how do you know that those are true? And yeah, that was sorry, but it was laughable what he was doing.
Yeah, that is funny. Well, you know, if you look at the whole them attacking presuppositional apologetics, it's like it's the same as, you know, the one atheist who came in here and said, Matt, you're a liar. You know, it's a personal. They're personally attacking a impersonal. You know, yeah, they can't deal with it. They can't handle it. So they're going to try to make fun of it. They're going to try to say, oh, you're going to do that. And it's like, well, it's the truth. That has no bearing at all to whether or not whether or not it's true or not.
Yeah, that's correct. We've got Chad. He's an atheist. He says, right, we cannot deal with it. So I don't know. He's being sarcastic or what.
Yeah, well, and what I'll say is I definitely appreciate you know, you actually took a little bit of a different perspective, or went a little bit deeper than in a different direction than I did. But what I took away from that is what they think of as a script is we keep going back to our presuppositions, our, you know, the truth that is at our feet. So it's almost like them complaining that oh, you know, why is that math teacher always teaching those kids that 2 + 2 = 4? They're using a script. You know,
Right.
it's almost like that. So
So what if it's a script? It's not. But what if it were? And what's that got to do with anything? You know, I have a cut and paste section on Carm, and a lot of times I will cut and paste things into chat rooms that that are scripted because it's just more efficient. You can write things down better and you know, get something that's more coherent and succinct. Nothing wrong with that. When they say it's just scripted, I'd say, what if it were? What does that mean?
yeah, I like that. I'll have to remember that.
Yeah. So, well, we can get some questions. I know that people, I think, what's her name, had a question, wasn't sure. We had Chad, the atheist dude, in here. It would be interesting to talk about some stuff. Exactly, Chad. Even if it were a script, it doesn't make it true, doesn't make it false. It's just a script.
And Chad, you can't handle it, Chad. I know, because we've dealt with that over the last several weeks, especially in the after hours thing, and you can't handle it, Chad. We love you, Chad, but you need to repent, plain and simple. And I'm probably going to end up kicking you out a little bit later too. But don't take it personally. I love you. We've shared the truth with you over and over again. And
well, let's talk some more. It's always good. I would
like
like
talk
to
some
talk
more.
to you.
You want to? Okay. Hey, Chad. Okay, I'll put you in the broadcast here, Chad. We could talk. What was that, Vincent? What was he saying that you oh man, what was he saying a couple weeks ago?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I think it was like 2 weeks ago or so that we were talking to Chad, and we were actually talking about in his worldview, where do you get truth, and came to I guess him making a statement that said that you get objective truth from a consensus of individuals.
Whoa.
Yeah, but well, and the thing is what I'll say is that at that point in time, I think you know, both John and I were kind of like, well, that's bizarre to say that because we'd already defined that objective truth is true whether anyone believes it or not, and a consensus of people fits within the circle of anyone. Therefore, it doesn't matter what the consensus thinks;
Right.
they still can't adjust or define objective truths. It's almost like saying the centimeter is an objective truth until the consensus of everyone says that we should change the centimeter.
Right.
That kind of
Well,
shows
they're playing
that
with the word objective.
Yeah.
They want a standard that's outside of themselves because they recognize a problem of subjectivity. Subjectivity is self-refuting, but they want something that's objective. They're trying to anchor objectivity outside of themselves, but all they're doing is chasing their tail because you really can't do that. Because if people are all there is that exist, that we don't know about aliens, we'll just not talk about that. But if people are all that exists on this planet, as the supreme intelligence, so to speak, well, then a bunch of individuals are the ones who make up the consensus. So you're still back in the same boat. It's a bigger boat. That's all. It's just going in circles. It doesn't help any. The atheists just aren't. They just can't. They can't get out of this. They're trying.
Yeah, I think they're
trying.
they're looking for the revelational epistemology that Christians have, and are unable to do so because they're stuck in mere subjectivity. They can't get to objectivity from their subjectivity.
They can't. It's impossible.
Yeah, and he kept changing the goalpost as well.
Now.
Yeah, come on, Chad. You're in the broadcast. You're going to mute yourself and talk to Matt. But Matt, watch for the moving goalposts.
No problem. It's practice. I like to practice, and atheists help me a lot. Different atheists. So.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I like to practice too. I like to practice my worldview.
Well, you want to? I thought someone else had a question first, but it was politely waiting. But I'd love to talk to you, Chad, and we can just talk about stuff. But whatever, you know.
Sure. I missed a little bit about. I'm sorry, I can't remember who was talking. It might have been Meowcat. Something that I was saying. I didn't even hear all of it. I just heard my name mentioned, and then he was talking for some time. Something that I was saying. Oh, I know what it was. Something about like subjective being the objective truth. Something like that. Like I don't know. It was something to do with subjective and objective.
Well, let me ask you, Chad. Why are you an atheist?
To be honest, I don't understand. I mean, it really just comes down to that I don't understand the worldview of any like religious claim. So I haven't seen any proof of any religious claim.
Well, okay, no proof. Okay, let's.
I mean, it doesn't make logical sense to me. And then things that people say that are supposed in reality, I don't see that it exists.
Okay, so let me ask you a question then. If something is not logical, can it be true?
If something is not logical, can it be true? I guess certain statements, I can't think of any, but I can't say for sure. I'm ignorant.
Well, if something's logically impossible.
Well, yeah, if something's logically impossible, by definition,
it can't be
impossible.
True. And if something is self-refuting, can it be true?
As far as I know, no.
Okay, so you're an atheist, right?
I would like to think so.
Okay, are you a naturalist? You believe that the universe is all there is?
Yeah, I mean, I've been looking into the different philosophies of thought. I really can't place myself on any particular one. I think that I'm a collection of a few of them. Some of them I reject, and some of them I agree with somewhat, and some of them.
Well, let's just narrow it down. You deny that God exists, right?
No.
You don't?
I don't deny something that I can't know exists. I don't know.
So
I'm agnostic.
So you're an agnostic. It's a subdivision of atheism. So you operate in the world as though God does not exist.
I operate with the knowledge that I have.
Okay. You operate in the world as though God does not exist because you can't affirm God's existence. You said there's no proof for God's existence. So you don't operate based on what you don't know. You operate and you believe based on you behave based on what you believe, what you affirm, not what you don't affirm.
Generally, yes. Yeah, okay. I see what you're saying. Sure. I mean, I can agree with that to some extent.
So you're functionally...
I do not deny God's existence. I simply don't know. I don't see any evidence, so I have to act as if there isn't one.
Let's take the other position. Let's just work from the position that there is no God, okay?
I'm sorry?
From that. Let's just assume for a bit the position that there is no God. And let's work from it, see if it makes sense. Let's see if it's self-refuting.
For the purposes of discussion, I can do that, sure.
Yeah, for discussion. So if there is no God, then the universe is all there is, because there's no God, right? That's all there would be is a universe.
I don't agree with that statement.
You don't?
How can you know that the universe is all that exists, even if there was a God or no God?
Okay, just trying to establish the parameters that you have. Do you believe there's anything outside this universe?
I don't know.
Okay, so do you have any evidence that there's anything outside the universe?
Other than some sort of scientific or philosophical thought, no.
Okay.
No evidence, no real tangible evidence.
So then there's no reason to believe there's anything other than the universe, right?
I would remain agnostic.
So there's no reason to believe, there's no evidence.
I have no reason at this time, yes, I agree with that.
So we're working from the position then that this universe is all there is, because you have no reason to believe, unless you want to just operate off faith, no reason to believe that anything is beyond the universe. This physical universe is all that we know about. There are certain possibilities, but we can't verify any possibilities, and we're not going to work in the fairyland. We're going to work in what we do know, right?
Sure.
Okay. So then from that perspective, what you would have to conclude is that the universe is all there is that we're aware of. We can't verify anything else. Right.
Sure. So
within this universe necessarily, and since we're going to also work from the position there is no God, because you behave based on what you believe, not what you don't believe, or not what you lack belief in, what you don't know about. And so since you do not affirm God, you work from the perspective that God doesn't exist, because he's not part of your worldview, he's not part of your life, he's not part of your cognition, your reasoning, your purpose. So the physical universe is what exists, along with its laws, physics, chemistry, and everything, right?
Yeah.
All right. So your brain, your physical brain, operates on those same physical laws of physics, chemistry, etc., right?
I mean, I'm agreeing with you, other than there are some things I'm ignorant about, so I'm agreeing with you to the point of what I know and I understand.
Okay. So your physical brain only operates within the laws of physics.
As far as I know.
Okay. So how does the laws of physics produce proper logical inference?
I don't know. How does it?
It can't. Let me give you an illustration.
Do you have proof of that?
Let me give you an illustration. All right. Let's say you and I are in a physics lab or just some laboratory, and we're going to build a really complicated box. And let's see. Okay. And we build this box. It's got, the numbers don't really matter, but 100 gears and some wires and some levers and some rubber bands and some gear reducers and some other stuff. And we crank the one lever on the one side, and out to the other side of the box, a series of lights just blinks in a certain pattern. All right?
Okay.
So every time we crank that, the same series of lights is going to work, because the laws of physics require that. Right?
Okay.
So now we add 1,000 gears, 1,000 more levers and pulleys, and now we crank. We get a different set of colors, but each time we crank from that point on, it's always a same sequence, right?
Okay.
So now we add electricity, we add levers and gears, and it's 1,000,000. The lever, a series of lights show, it's the same, and each time after that point, it's the same, because that's what the law of physics require, right?
I suppose.
So the brain is like that. It's a physical component. It's a physical thing. If the brain is neurons and electrical impulses, and it's operating under the laws of physics, then every single time, under the same situations, the same everything, the same result will come out. That's not logical inference. You can't trust logical inference on that. And here's the point. With this, it demonstrates that view is self-refuting, because you could never know if anything you believed was true or not, including the idea that the universe might be all there is, or that atheism is true, or whatever. You would never be able to know even what you think you know. Therefore, it's self-refuting. It can't work. And as you said, if it's self-refuting, it can't be true. So this idea that the universe is all there is and our brains are operating under the physical laws is a self-refuting system. It can't be true.
Okay, can you demonstrate any of that?
I just did.
How?
I just did. Weren't you listening?
Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting story, but
okay.
I don't see where it has any basis in reality.
Well,
I mean, first of all, you made a mechanism that's oversimplistic for a brain. However, I'm a machinist, so I know quite well about, cogs and lights and that sort of thing. I understand those sorts of things, and there's something that we have in machinists, and that's something called tolerance. And the tighter the tolerance, the more accurate of a piece I'm making. Now, as far as the brain is concerned, you could call it cogs and lights or whatever you want. And there's a certain accuracy to those sorts of things. Now, if I had maybe many thousands and millions and maybe even billions of those cogs mechanisms that you were talking about, and even if one of them messed up only 1 in 1,000 times, the same results wouldn't come out all the same. However, I don't think that really meets the point that you were talking about. I mean, also the mechanism that you were talking about doesn't really follow that the universe is all that exists. That's a separate issue. So, I mean, you're talking about a mechanism in the way the brain works, and then it's a totally separate issue about the universe.
Well, I used to be a mechanical designer. I know about tolerances, but the brain does not work off of tolerances of 0.002.
No, they're really worse than that. They're actually worse than that.
So it does not work on that. It's not a competent analogy. The brain, however, is limited to the laws of physics and chemistry. How do the laws of physics and chemistry produce proper logical inference? That's the problem. If you know anything about computers, GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. The brain in naturalism.
There's certain mistakes that even the digital processor makes within the computer all the time.
Yeah, and when those exact same circumstances occur, the exact same results occur.
Actually, no, that's not true.
Yes, it is. I just said so.
Why do sometimes
I said exact
things
same.
happen? Well, there's never an exact same in that sense. I mean,
okay.
Are you talking about the same electron every time? I don't think you are.
Okay. So I'm just trying to help you understand something. That the physical brain in this worldview, it cannot be justified in that worldview how you can even have proper logical inference.
I'm sorry, can you explain that further? I don't think I follow. I don't think I'm smart enough to really understand what you're saying.
How does one chemical state in the brain that leads to another chemical state in the brain produce proper logical inference?
I don't really know, honestly. I think that's a little too advanced for my knowledge.
Have you ever heard of anybody ever postulating how that can occur?
I mean, I've heard people talk about it, but my ignorance puts me at a certain level. So,
well, you should study it because no one has an answer. Nobody does. Nobody can solve it.
Well, then
nobody's been able to solve it.
I guess we should just give up.
Well, or abandon that worldview because it doesn't work.
Why?
Because
Why
it doesn't
work? How do you know it can never work?
It doesn't work?
How do you know it can never work, though?
Because if you were to have a chemical in a dish on a table and another chemical in a dish and an empty third dish, you have two chemicals. By analogy, if you have these two chemicals, are the chemicals producing logical inference? No, they're not. You mix the chemicals in the third dish. Is that producing logical inference? No, it's not. You get 1,000 such dishes, and you put wires all across them, and you just add electricity. Does that produce logical inference?
As far as I know, minds don't exist without brains. And so this sort of, whatever this brain does, I mean, it's an emergent property, is this consciousness. I mean, no, of course, nobody can sort of prove that yet, but the key word being yet, I mean, we've proved a lot of things. I mean, we used to not really know much of anything. I mean, we used to think lightning was Zeus throwing light, you know what I mean, electric charges down or something, you know what I mean? I don't know what we thought, but
what you're telling me is that you have faith that somehow somebody somewhere will come up with an answer that you might be able to believe in. But for now, you're going to just
I think
abide
it's
in
perfectly fine.
ignorance.
No, I mean, I think to some extent we have to live with some ignorance. I mean, to simply
Yeah,
say that I know something that I don't know is even more ignorant than actually saying I don't know.
Well, I'm just trying to tell you and help you understand something, that in naturalism, under the laws of physics, there is no known mechanism whatsoever by which proper logical inference can be formulated out of a mechanical structure, unless there's an intelligence involved that produces that information structure to begin with. To your worldview, really, do you know of any place where information occurs without an intelligence being behind it?
I think that's a tricky word, but I mean, I think that there has to be some sort of mechanism at work that would record and store information. So you know what I mean? As long as that's there, I mean, to a certain extent, I mean, my computer
was designed by intelligence.
Yeah, that's true. Is it an intelligence in itself, is what I'm saying. Is it a mind?
It was designed by an intelligence.
It does what a mind does.
And it reacts logically because it was designed to do so.
So I'm saying a brain acts logically because that's what it does.
Because that's what it does? Oh, okay. Yeah. God exists because that's what he does. He just simply exists. Okay.
Okay, sure. I can pull out a brain for you. Can you pull out a God?
Pull out a God?
Yeah, where's the God? Where is it? I mean, I understand what the logical arguments that you're making, but they're just sort of assertions until you can show some sort of mechanism that you know that there is a God or that I can.
Okay, Chad, we're just once again we're just going to go round and round and round with this, my friend.
All right, then, kick me off. Whatever you got to do, fine. I mean, nobody wants to ever have a conversation.
No, actually, Chad, we've had several conversations. Many people have had several conversations with you, Chad. We love you. Okay, we've given you the gospel. We've given you the truth. We've gone around 9 ways to Sunday, my friend. And you just keep going with the same arguments and the same things, my friend. You know. Okay, let's move on here. We got T here, who I promised would be next here. Is he still in here? Is he still in here? Let's see. Or did he go? Oh, wait, there he is. Okay, he just came back. He just came back. Okay, my friend, let me add you to the broadcast here. Good thing we got rid of Chad, so this way you could come back in. But oh man, hold on, this isn't working right. Please hold, and we will be with you shortly. Thank you. Okay, showing broadcast. Okay, there we. Is that the same guy? T?
That it is.
Okay. What's your question, my friend, for Matt?
Oh, I'm not referring to me. I'm talking about true empiricism over there. He's the dude with the blue screen.
Oh, he's a dude. Oh, he's a dude with the blue screen. Oh, okay. I thought it was.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I can't see the side chat, so if you're typing towards me, I can't see that, just to make things clear, and I'll just put myself out of the discussion.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I did not see. Yeah, T. That's weird. Okay. What is your question, my friend? You can unmute yourself. Okay, does not look like we're not hearing anything, my friend. Oh, you can't? Do you want to type in a question for Matt? I'll look in here.
That's not Saint T you're referring to, is it? You're not talking to me, or excuse me, sir. Excuse me.
No, the guy with the blue. Oh wait, yeah, I thought. Oh wait, no. Okay, never mind. You're right. I'm sorry. Showing broadcast. I'm looking. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, Can you guys hear me?
Sorry, dude. Yeah,
Yes.
that's better. Sorry, man. I had the wrong screen. I'm running on a small screen here.
Yeah, I was gonna try to piggyback off of some things that the other individual was talking about evidence for God, but I guess I'll go back to the other
Sure.
question if the topic's changed.
You can do what you want, whatever your question is.
Well, the question that I wanted to ask to begin with was something that I've been asking some atheists in some discussions, and it's if homosexuality is acceptable because it's between two consenting adults, do we then allow the door to be open for incest between a mother and a father or any other grown individuals as well? Because I think that when you start to say that this is a moral issue, when you start to say that, well, it's acceptable because these laws are now put in place now, morals are changing. I think that if you're going to be objective and you start looking at it for that issue that's at hand right there, I think between two consenting adults, then you'll probably start to realize that it is a moral issue if you look into it. So I just wanted to see what your guys' thoughts were on that.
Well, yeah, it's called the slippery slope argument, and you redefine marriage away from just simply a man and a woman, and you redefine it. Well, what's to stop somebody else from redefining it further? And that is one of the issues that is under consideration and concern, is the issue of incest and pedophilia and polygamy and polyandry and some other issues of marriages. There's people who want to marry dead people. There are people who want to marry animals. People who want to marry themselves. So yeah, it's just part of the problem that the homosexuals and their liberal ideologies have opened up. And they think that they're the ones being reasonable and everybody else is not being reasonable. But they'll find that the slope's going to just tilt a little bit further down. It'll be Christians who are going to have to come in and start doing the arguing against them and trying to sway them from further degrading one of the basic building blocks of our society, marriage. Or that answered that or not.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's been other people that I've talked to about this issue. And I've actually been surprised by some of the answers. Some of the people that I've talked to have said, actually, well, I don't have a problem with that as well, So some of the issues that get brought up as well, you can't have that. That's a different issue because with incest, that doesn't really happen naturally, and homosexuality is naturally. Well, actually, if you look in nature, incest does happen. Incest does happen.
Absolutely.
But there's also other situations that they'll try to bring up, like, wait, you can't have incest because that will mess up the genes. You open the door for certain mutations that will just hurt the offspring. Well, what happens if those two consenting adults decide on not having children? They go and they adopt.
One is sterile or sterilized, right?
So I mean, I don't think that I've ever really heard anybody that's supporting gay marriage get away from that particular issue with incest. I mean, some of them just flat way just accept it, but I mean, I don't know. I think it's interesting to look into.
Yeah, it is. I get a lot of these issues on the website, just stuff like that. What do you do? So I think the Christian church is going to have to rise to the occasion and come up with some good scripted responses to some of these things so that Christians can deal with a lot of the stuff that's coming up, raising these difficult issues and trying to expose the problems that are inside of the homosexual community and these arguments and the logic that they're raising. We can do it. There are ways to demonstrate that. But when you have people who don't care about truth, and they care about their own sexuality, their own pleasure, their own desires, their own agendas, then truth and logic really aren't going to go very far with them. But it's up to us as Christians to promote the truth all the time, and in a prayerful consideration before the Lord, do our best to present the truth to the unbelievers and ask God to open up their hearts and their minds. That's what we've got to do.
Exactly. To the individual, was it John that was the agnostic atheist before I left the discussion?
Chad,
is he still in here?
No, he's gone.
Yeah, I was going to try to throw some questions his way. But he's not here, there's no point, I guess.
Yeah, he's gone. We got Andrew Rappaport. Say hello, Andrew.
Hello, Andrew.
Oh, how are you, my friend?
How you doing, guys?
Wonderful.
It's great. You having a good night, Matt?
Yeah, I'm trying to get my wife to come over to the camera because she wasn't really presentable earlier, but now she is. So I was hoping she'd come on a little bit and just say hi to everybody.
She's still going to use that.
And you really expect that she's going to do that?
I'm trying.
Does your webcam come off? Take your webcam off,
and we'll do that.
We can look at the mess around your.
There she is. There's my wife. Whoops, hold on a sec. There she is. Whoops. Okay. Okay.
Hi. Hi.
This is my favorite wife.
Adorable.
Yeah, Anik. Okay.
Hey everyone. Bye.
So now she's going to have a meeting. Are they here? They're coming. She's having a meeting about the CARM 20th anniversary, which is in October, and so some ladies are getting together and they're going to be discussing what they're going to be doing, things like eats and other things. So
you got to have a cake. You got to have a cake. I wish I could. I wish I could go out there. I'd never be able to afford any of that. But you got to have a cake and take a picture of a cake. You got to have like a birthday cake or something.
We're going to go to a homosexual-owned cake and ask them to do this thing CARM.
Yeah. 20 years of CARM. Homosexuality is a sin.
That's right. Parentheses. Yeah. Or do it in Greek.
Yeah, they never.
I heard your. I really hate to waste my question like this, but I heard your wife was of French descent. Is that true, or?
Yes, she is. Her name's Anik. She speaks French.
Oh, bonjour. Comment ça va?
She's not here, but she does. She's doing fine.
Oh, sorry, my camera's lagging.
And your accent is a little bit weird. I'm telling you, I can tell. I've heard French a lot. So.
Je suis Canadian. I am Canadian.
Yeah.
One thing.
I apologize, but since do I still get to get another question, or did I just waste it?
Go for it. Go for it. What's your question?
Okay. I have concerns about grounding objective morality directly in God. You think
Are you an atheist or not an atheist?
With regards to that?
Wait. First of all, are you an atheist or not an atheist?
Not an atheist. Anglican.
What are you? What? You're Anglican?
High Church Anglican.
Oh, about the same thing then. I'm sorry.
I said High Church.
I couldn't resist. Okay, so you're having trouble grounding.
Wait, Matt. Don't they believe in the same version of baptism as you?
I don't know.
We believe in it. We believe in infant baptism because it's biblical. What's your excuse for not believing in it?
Okay, here we go. let's stay on the stuff about morality. I have an argument for infant baptism that even Andrew can't refute, so we can maybe discuss it later.
All right.
Okay. But what your question is? You have a problem? What?
Oh, I have a problem directly grounding morality just from the proposition or statement that God exists. Granting that for the sake of argument, I find you still run into some very hardline problems with the Euthyphro dilemma, and I think you might also have some problems with other ethical questions.
Well, you're jumping all over the place.
No, I'll handle it. So the Euthyphro dilemma, to the best of my understanding, is that either God is good because something is good because God commands it, or God commands something because it is good. Now, if it's
that's a false dichotomy.
I'm sorry?
It's a false dichotomy.
And there's a third one, which is the good is directly grounded in God's nature.
Right, and he reveals what is right based on him.
Right, so God has a lot of properties or ways of describing him. God is loving, God is just, God is merciful, God has all these characteristic traits that would prevent him from saying, for example, rape has finally become good or moral. That would be your response, correct?
Okay.
And he's essentially
wait. What you're doing is you're saying a lot of things. You're weaving a lot of stuff into a single, very long statement saying that's your position, right? So I can't agree to. Yeah.
All right. So I'm just merely elucidating the notion of grounding morality directly in God's nature, as opposed to God's command or God's knowledge based off of something that is good. So to ground something in God's nature, if I was to say, why doesn't God command the raping of infants? sorry to use such a vulgar example, but I think it works. The response would be, well, considering that God is loving, compassionate, caring, merciful.
Oh wait, you know what? Why don't you ask him the question and let him answer it, and then
I'm just elucidating my understanding of the God's nature response. If it's not correct, then I'm open to correction here. Is it not correct?
I don't know yet. I'm waiting for you to kind of get to it. So go ahead.
All right. Because he has all these characteristics, essentially, then he can't command such a thing because it would be contrary to his nature.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I have a problem with such a response. If it's really because of these character traits, then I could just repose the question again. Are these character traits themselves good because God has them, or does God have them because they are good? If God has them because they are good, then really they don't become essential, they're accidental. God could just choose whichever kind of character trait he wants. But if it's, on the other hand, these traits are good, well, we could just bypass them on being ontologically present in God's nature and just say these traits ground morality.
All you're doing is just rephrasing the Euthyphro dilemma.
Yeah, I know. This is why I don't think the God's nature response satisfies it.
Okay, so what other besides God do you want to ground morality in?
Oh, natural law.
Natural law. Give me an example of what natural law is.
Okay. So I ground this in I ground morality in human nature. Man is essentially, in the Aristotelian sense, a rational animal and a social animal, and even a spiritual animal. These are essential traits of all human beings.
Please give me an example of a natural moral law.
A natural moral law? Okay, it is homosexuality is wrong.
Why?
All right. Because the telos, or the final cause or end of the penis, is for the end of reproduction, and to utilize it for any other end is a perversion of it, or a misuse. Why? Okay. The nature of the penis exists for the end of, well, reproduction.
How do you know?
All right. So,
because also urination.
Also for urination, yes. That's just because it has one. Just because it has one end doesn't mean it doesn't have other.
You're arguing as an atheist. That's what you're doing. You're excluding God. Yes, you are. You want natural law, not God's law. So you're arguing without God. You're arguing from a natural perspective.
Yeah, it doesn't. Can I?
Here's why. So here's how it differs. I still think telos, or universal natures, are grounded in God. So it's an indirect grounding. It's directly grounded in the nature of the universal, but all universals are grounded or exist or have pre-existence in the mind of God.
So is it universally true that it's wrong to say, for example, lie?
Yeah.
Okay. So in natural law, would you defend the issue of it's morally wrong to lie in natural law or God's character or both?
Well, I first grounded in analyzing what human nature is. So man being a rational animal, his rational faculties exist for the end of obtaining truths. And to
so then
lie,
man is a standard. Use man as a starting point, not God.
Man's nature.
Okay, I'm going to jump ship here and ask you some questions really fast. Just give me some quick answers. Do you believe Jesus Christ is God in flesh?
Yes, I do.
Do you believe he died on the cross, rose from the dead?
Yep.
You believe in the doctrine of the Trinity?
Uh-huh.
Justification by faith alone in Christ alone?
Faith through grace. I believe in faith through grace alone, and the fruits and works are the fruit of such grace.
Okay. Do you believe in justification by faith alone in Christ alone?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you've got one foot in the secular and too much philosophy. Colossians 2:8 applies to you. You're being captured by vain philosophy. You're not grounding truth in God, and you're starting with man as a moral standard. You're inconsistent. You're behaving as an atheist and arguing it as an atheist. The reason I tested you theologically was just to see if you've gone full measure and denied some of the essentials of the faith, because you can't ground, I would think, you could ground the idea of sacrificial atonement in natural law.
All right. So with regards to my natural law position, it's not unorthodox or without Christian history. This is the viewpoint of St. Thomas Aquinas.
I don't care about St. Thomas Aquinas. I don't care about Alexander the Great. I don't care about others. I want to know what Scripture says. You give me Scripture.
Does not nature itself tell us that for man to cut his hair is unnatural?
Yes. What does that mean?
It means Paul is appealing to nature.
Okay. And so do you cut your hair?
Do I cut my hair? Yeah. Yeah, I do.
So then you're sinning.
Am I sinning for cutting? No, I'm not. I just don't grow my hair long. That's the point.
You know you cut your hair. He said it's not natural. Does not nature say it's not right to cut hair? From man, right? So you shouldn't cut your hair. So you sinned against nature if you don't.
Well, no, I should cut my hair. That's the whole point of that passage from Paul. If you grow your hair long, this is a very womanly feature. It's contrary to the nature of man.
Okay, so then a woman should not cut her hair.
A woman should have her hair long. She could cut her hair, but she should have long hair, as opposed to a man.
So natural law says men have to have short hair, women have to have long hair.
Yep.
Where'd you get that from?
Seems to be in Scripture.
Okay, we're not talking about Scripture. Natural law. You brought up natural law, which is not Scripture. So I'm curious, where in would that be?
Well, the thrust of my argument is that in Scripture there's an appeal to natural law. So if you're saying I'm an atheist for appealing to natural law, then you're also saying Scripture is atheistic for appealing to its natural law.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Because that passage in 1 Corinthians 11 deals with the issue of propriety. Men have certain appearances that are natural to them, and women do too. Mm-hmm. Why? Because God made them that way. Not because they evolved and not because they developed socially. It's because of something that is inherent and is by God's decree. And so I want to know what your ultimate assumption is, because you have to ground everything in God, not in nature. Because if you ground things in nature, then you're going to have a problem. I'm just going to tackle you as I would an atheist.
Right. And, all right, so I'm kind of curious as how this goes to grounding morality in God, because that's what I asked you. And as from what I'm aware, this is a Matt Slick Q&A, not a me-A. But I'm not.
Yeah, but you see, you're the one doing a lot of teaching and stuff in this. If it's just Q&A, then you'd have a question, but you've not. Your questions have been about that much out of about that much of the discussion.
So my questions have been about how you would ground it in God's nature.
I don't have to ground it. God told me through the Scriptures. He reveals what is true. It's based in His nature. God cannot lie. Titus 1:2.
Yes, and I'm saying. So yeah, but that would be under the presumption that God isn't lying to you in Scripture right there. So it seems to me like a circular argument.
You mean God could be lying right there?
You wouldn't know.
Okay, could God be lying right there?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm saying you're using that as a justification.
Wait a second. Wait, stop for a second. Stop for a second. So you just said that God could go ahead and sin.
What I'm saying is, if you're going to justify that God cannot lie based on a statement from God, that's circular. You're saying that God can't lie because God said He can't lie.
Stop for a second. I just said God could lie. You said God could lie. I want to know, is that what you're saying? God can lie. Is that your position?
Yeah, wait, I muted him.
I want to hear him. It's just
okay.
Yeah, this is critical for anybody to say supposed to be a Christian who says, yeah, God can lie, and then go on like that, like it's nothing. That is super significant.
Yeah.
We need to address that.
You could go ahead and unmute yourself.
So I want to hear. This is what I want to get to right now. So God can lie. Is that what you're saying, Anglican?
What I'm saying is.
Wait a minute. You just said God could lie.
No. What I meant to say, and if I said it incorrectly, I apologize. What I meant to say is, if you're justifying the notion that God cannot lie based on a testament from God saying He can't lie, that's circular because that goes under the presumption that he's not lying to you right there. I think you could have other ways of justifying God not being able to lie.
Is God then subjected to my reasoning and something else so I can determine whether or not he lies or not, or should I trust him at his word?
Well, what I would say is, given that, what I would say is,
trust him at his word, or are we to subject his statements to a criteria that we decide so that we can determine if he's really lying or not?
What I'd say is we would delve into what God's nature is through natural theology and natural thought, and then what we would do is...
Are you a pantheist?
No.
Then why would you use nature to determine what God is?
Romans chapter 1, for the things unseen in... I would just posit Romans chapter 1, where God says, we see the invisible things of God within nature.
No, look. The reason the attributes of God are reflected in nature, as described in Romans 1, is because of his great creation ability, his omnipotence, his wisdom, and other things and his characteristics that are manifested in the order of the universe that we see. Order, we see information, we see wisdom, we see all kinds of things, so that the unbelievers are without excuse. But we don't use natural law in order to determine God's nature. We use his self-revelation, Jesus.
Okay, and just to go back to that, it's possible for an omnipotent God to create a state of affairs wherein what we do is deduce that the cause of all of this must be a non-liar, must be someone who is essentially true. And furthermore, I'd also posit that Christ himself is the true revelation and the true word based off of supernatural grace supervening on each and every individual believer.
Is Jesus the exact representation of the nature of God?
His human nature is. I would say that he is fully God and fully man, and his human nature is the window to understand the divine nature.
So how does a human nature represent the infinite God?
How does human nature represent an infinite God? Man is, well, in the same way that I would posit in the book of in the works of Moses, how God reveals himself through a burning bush, not consuming the bush itself, but exemplifying it in the divine fire. Likewise, likewise, Jesus Christ, the Son of God, exemplifies the divine inference.
Wait, hold on.
Humanity not being consumed.
Is Jesus the exact representation of the nature of God? The answer is yes, or the answer is no. Because the Scripture says he is. Why do you have to qualify every single? Why do you qualify every single thing? It's like you're stuck in some philosophical loop here, and really, what you're accomplishing is absolutely nothing. I mean, what's your question? You say, how do I know?
My question was how you simply resolve the Euthyphro dilemma, but considering that you're trying to turn the tables on me, I think I'm going to leave because there's nothing to be found here. I wish you a good day and God bless you.
Okay, if you're gonna sit there and try to play, he's gone.
Yeah.
You know, for anyone that's watching, that's called playing the victim card, and that's what you have people do when they realize that they can't answer. And that's exactly what you saw there. You saw him not being able to answer what Matt's asking. He wants to sound intelligent until Matt actually is talking, and he suddenly realizes, gee, I don't know how to answer these very simple questions. And so I'll play the victim and run away. That's a sad tactic, but seen very often.
Yeah, it was trying to find out just where he's coming from, and I started getting now I started to see some inconsistencies, so I was going to start bringing it in, and then it's time for him to leave. So whatever.
But Matt, what you were doing there, and I point this out often because you've been doing this for 20 years, and 25, and people don't always pick up on some of the things that you're trying to do in discussions like this.
Right.
And so that's good for people to see. You were trying to pull out from him what he believes, so that you can show the inconsistencies. Could you explain that a little bit more for folks?
Yeah, well, what I call it fishing. And what I do is try and see what people are holding to. See, what he was doing was arguing as an atheist while holding into Christian theology, which is why I took that little segment out and said, do you believe this, this, and this? Because I'm seeing some inconsistencies. If he wants to judge God by natural law, then say because God revealed himself in nature, then what he's doing is saying that by looking at nature, we can then judge what God is, but that's wrong. We should be looking at the personal work of Jesus Christ. So I was quoting Hebrews where it says he's the exact representation of the nature of God. Then he says, but his human nature is. So everything seems to have a qualification with him, and I think he's stuck in a philosophical loop. I don't know what his real problem is or what he's really trying to get to, but it doesn't seem like he's, I don't know. Didn't have enough time with him to really make in my opinion, a more informed assessment. But I think he's really confused, and he's not really sure what it is he believes and he's saying. So I started calling him on some of these things, and then he just wanted to leave. So I don't know. Maybe I wasn't getting what he was saying enough, but I thought he was being incoherent.
First,
he made some basic mistakes.
He was like, my foundation is Scripture, then my foundation is man. My foundation is Scripture,
Right.
then my foundation is man. It was back and forth, and it's like, that's why it was good. I kind of wish he would have stayed a little bit, but I would have had to keep muting him because.
Well, I was just then. I mean, it's okay. He chose to leave, but I was just, okay, now I think I got enough notes, and I can start hammering him and just show his inconsistency, because it is exactly what he was doing, and you summed it up very nicely. Is, as I said, he's got 1 foot in the theology and 1 foot in the secular. He's kind of arguing from both perspectives, and there's an inconsistency there, and he was jumping from side to side. I was trying to understand what's the reasoning, but there wasn't any that I could determine.
Okay, so do this for us, Matt. Because he may still come back and watch.
Yeah,
there
sure.
could be others who would be watching or listening that may think similar to him, that law is based in natural, or that morality is based in natural law. Could you then go further, explain what you would have explained to him had he stayed on?
If morality is based in natural law, then how would we know what the right moral thing is by looking at nature? Because the only way to determine that would be is if the consensus said we agree that this is what nature is saying or teaching us. And that comes back to the atheist argument. It's godless is what it is. But if nature exists from the Christian perspective, it does, because God has made nature and put certain elements of order in it. When he was quoting, and I'll go to it, when he was quoting Romans, I think it was right around verse 20, Romans 1:20, for since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood through what has been made. How does he get morality out of this? Because I've never understood that verse. Maybe some have, but I've not understood it to be an issue of moral revelation. The morality that we have is revealed out of the character of God. We go to Titus 1:2, he says, it says God cannot lie. We go to 1 Peter 1:16, be holy because I am holy. God grounds righteousness and holiness includes morality, in his own nature. This is what God does. So when someone takes it away from God and starts putting it with man, that's a problem. One of the things I've been saying lately on the radio and some other places the past year or so is that humanism is creeping into the church. One of the signs of humanism creeping into the church is a man-centered theology, or man is a starting point, or man is the terminus. Man is the ending point, where man is the standard and not God. It's happening in Christianity. Now, Anglicanism, in my opinion, is liberal. I was surprised he held on to the Orthodox doctrines he did. I'm sure there's other things that we could talk about and find out. But there are some good Anglicans, there's some not so good Anglicans, but I won't get into all that. So the issue here is that if we're going to ground truth, we have to start with God, as God himself does. And to ground it and start with natural law, what justifies that? So when he went to Romans 1:20 to justify moral truths found in nature and not Scripture, I mean, that is just ridiculous. God says don't lie, don't commit adultery, don't do this, don't do that. And there are other things that are derived out of the moral law that you can't see in nature. I mean, property lines. We might have marrying somebody whose husband died in order to bring up seed for them. This is something God commanded. Why would these things? How would you know these things to be true in natural law? There's all kinds of things I think that will be problematic to discern out of a natural law ideology. I don't think he's thought this stuff through, and I think also, it's my opinion. Maybe I'm misrepresenting him, not intending to, but from what I heard, I think he was trying to sound philosophically able, but he wasn't thinking the issues through sufficiently, particularly in light of Scripture. And I think he was stubbing his own toe in the corner of truth and Scripture, messing up.
And I think he might have been reading a script too. I hate to bring the script thing up, but it looked like it depends. People have screens different places, but it was almost like, yes, I have this prepared for Matt Slick, and
Yeah, he was. There's ways to tell someone's kind of reading off a screen or just looking at Matt while talking to him. He was staring at a screen without blinking. So that's what made me think that he was reading a script. But it was kind of interesting that he was sorry?
It's okay to read the script. That's okay.
Yeah.
Hey, hon, could you turn the fan off? It's just walked in.
Well, I'll turn it off, Matt. But
my wife.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We will have none of this here. This isn't one of the type of hangouts. Come on, I'm in charge today here, so none of that.
You guys, oh man.
So here's the thing, though. What you saw with him was and for folks that might be listening or watching, Matt, you jumped on the fact that he was saying that God could lie.
Oh,
yeah. Why is that such an important issue? Why did you jump on it?
If he thinks God can lie, then you can't trust him for anything. That's actually Islam theology. God is the best of deceivers. I think it's Surah 354. I'm not sure, but I'm like, what? And I was on him on that. What he said, he did say God could lie. If I remember correctly, he said that, and then he just went straight through. Like, what? You cannot do that. That means, that's interesting, because he did retract it. To be fair. But if he did say that, why would he say that? But if his retraction was forced because I was on him on it, which I'd like to clear up later with him, then does his personal opinion about God include the idea that maybe he could lie? See, I would never say that. It's not even a possibility that I could say that because I've thought this stuff through. I've gone through God can't lie. What do you mean? So his view of God, in my opinion, was quite weak.
But why is it so important, that issue? If you believe God can lie, or someone, like if he's arguing God could lie to deceive his own followers, why is that such an important issue to say that God cannot lie?
Because the Bible says God can't lie, Titus 1:2. And if you say God can lie, you contradict the Scripture. If you contradict the Scripture, you're contradicting what God says. People say, well, that's circular. Yes, it is. And it works very nicely when we assume God presuppositionally. We just assume God's existence. We assume God's consistency, and everything works perfectly with that, and everything makes sense. But if you don't assume those positions and assume that God can lie, then everything falls apart. And we wouldn't have the ability to know if we're atoned for or not, or if Jesus was real or not, if the Scriptures are true or not. We wouldn't have any hope. And if that's the case, then why be anything? We could just become atheists.
I do, when I talk with a lot of professing, Christians, I ask them, I said, do you think that the Bible could be wrong? Could there be errors in the Bible? It was written by men, that's your general thing that people say. And many times it's like, well, yeah, it could be wrong. It's like, well, did Jesus die for your sin? Oh, yes, he died for my sins. How do you know that? Where do you know that from? Well, I know it from the Bible. Well, couldn't that part be wrong? And then basically, if the Bible's wrong, they can't know anything. They can't know.
Right.
So just even in that one, which you almost jumped out of your chair. It's like, what? You think God could lie? Yeah, that was kind of insane.
Yeah, that's in the very character of God himself. And so if you're attacking the very character of God, then we got another problem, and that's far more important than anything else he was saying. That means he's denying the truth of Scripture, denying what God's Word really says.
And I don't think he was trying to make the argument that it's circular. I don't think it's necessarily circular, because his argument is we believe that God does not lie because God says he does not lie, but where does God say he does not lie? In his Word. The issue being is because his nature is one that he cannot lie. That's why we can trust him when he says he cannot lie.
Yeah, he cannot lie.
Yeah. it's not exactly circular like he tried to argue.
And I could present a logical argument, I think, off the top of my head, or maybe I could, but at any rate, that God cannot lie, because lying is an internal inconsistency. And if God is immutable and God is eternal, which we will only get out of the revelation of Scripture anyway, then he'd have to be consistent with himself from forever ago. But if he's consistent with himself forever ago by his nature of what he is, then he couldn't be lying. So, the idea of natural thinking would, I think, demonstrate that God, by nature, the immutable, eternal being, cannot lie. That's what I think. I have to work through some details on that, but I think it's a reasonable assertion.
I thought you did that before. I thought I heard you do that once before.
Maybe I did. I don't know. I've been thinking about that and some other things lately, but at any rate, there's some Slash says a naturalistic fallacy is saying the good can be reduced in terms of natural properties such as pleasant or desirable, but to ground moral law is grounded in the telos. Yeah, he was saying telos, and that's the Greek word for end, or telos is established by God, then God is still the foundation. Yeah, that would make sense. Because I was going to get to this issue, is that if you're going to talk about natural law, then you're deriving it out of nature, but God's the author of nature, and if he's the one who created it, his fingerprints are in nature, so it's still grounded ultimately in God. And what we need to go by is not natural law, what we see nature do, but we need to go into the very revealed character of God. Now, if I would ask him this question if he was back on, is if natural law is what you're going to go by, then is homosexuality a sin? That would be a question I'd ask. Because if you're going to go with just natural law, how would you determine if it's a sin or not? And can you devise natural law and sin? Can you devise sin out of natural law? And who would the sin be against? Would it be against God? Or would it be against nature? These are some of the things. That's an hour-long discussion. I don't know if it would be worth it, but these are some of the questions I was thinking about, wanted to ask him. But then we get into a long discussion.
Yeah, well, he left himself, so he could come back. Speaking of coming back, if anyone does not have a question for Matt, if you would leave the Hangout. I don't want to kick people if I don't have to, because then you can't come back afterwards. We had some problems with that the last couple of weeks where we just went through people really quick, and then people came back and wanted to come back, and they couldn't. Let's see here. We had Melissa had a question, and then if anyone else has questions, let me know in the chat here. Now, Melissa, what's your question for Matt?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, first I want to say hi to Andrew and hi to you, Matt, and everybody.
Hi.
Yeah, Andrew knows who I am. Well, what I was going to say is I just have a regular Bible question because
Okay.
we're going through in our Bible studies at my church, and we're going about the part about Solomon, King Solomon.
Yes.
And it said he ruled for like 40 years, but I couldn't find anywhere that said like how old he was when he first became king.
I don't know. Good question. Let me do this. I have a really nice Bible program, and I'll go to it, and let's type in Solomon and see if it gives me some information. Good question. I mean, I don't know that one.
Yeah, I looked on your website at first, I think.
Could you repeat the question, Matt? Because Melissa was a little bit.
How old was Solomon when he became king? Right? I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
She stumps everyone. No one knows the answer. Yeah, well, at least she's not an atheist. Your God can't exist because you can't answer my question.
No, I'm Christian. I don't think that.
No, I know you don't. I know, but I'm just saying, you see stuff like that sometimes. It's hilarious.
Yeah, I know. There's no pancake mix in the Bible.
There's what?
Pancake mix in the Bible, so
there's cake mix?
It can't be true.
A little difficult to understand you. Sorry.
Sorry.
He said pancake mix.
Yeah, they used to talk about that pancake mix when they say like, "Oh, pancake mix isn't in the Bible, so it can't be true."
Yeah, he won't get that reference, Brian.
I don't get it. Yeah, sorry.
So the issue, Matt, there that what she's referring to is when people were open air preaching on the streets, some kid came up on a college campus and just started yelling at someone, just saying, "You ain't got no pancake mix," and the person didn't know how to respond, so that became like the thing that everyone would do is they would just try to stump preachers by saying, "You ain't got no pancake mix." And then a bunch of us started carrying, Brad Snow was the one that gave us the idea to start carrying pancake mix. And I know one time in New York where someone did it to me, and I pulled out some pancake mix and said, "I got pancake mix. You ain't got no pancake mix." And the guy just stood there like dumbfounded, which was kind of a fun thing to watch.
Wow, that's really something.
You learn things every day here, Mr.
That is really something.
Always carry pancake mix.
I was doing a little bit of research. He reigned 40 years as king, so if you find out how old he was when he died, then you'll know how old he was when
he reigned from 971 to 931 BC.
Mine says 970 to 930, so very close.
Well, yeah, depends on
it's all right.
Numbering.
He has the infant baptism version of the.
Okay, the other one says 971, 931. Yeah.
So I'm just trying to look. And I'm actually looking on the Jewish Encyclopedia, so not in Logos, because I figured you're looking there.
I'm looking at Logos, yeah. All right. So anyway.
Listen, I'll look this up and try to get an answer to you.
Yeah, that's fine. I didn't think my question was that important, but I was just curious.
Okay, no. Yeah, it's one of those like, well, yeah, it's okay. I wonder. No.
Well, we could quickly try to maybe find out how old he was when he died.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to find out.
And
yeah.
Anybody else have any questions right in the meantime?
Yeah, in between.
Let's see here. Who said they had
around 80 years old is the answer when he died, supposedly.
How old?
Around 80 is what this is saying. So
okay, so about 40. That makes sense typologically.
Which Matt would then see as good covenant, being the age of a priest. He probably
I just thought it'd be cool. He's 40. I heard a great synopsis. It reminds me of a great synopsis of Moses' life, the best one I've ever heard. It took him 40 years to learn he was somebody, 40 years to learn he was nobody, and 40 years to be used by God as nobody. Isn't that good?
Yeah.
I like that. Slick and quick. All right, so.
Okay, we've got. Well, I know Matthew Rocco had said he had a question. So wait, are you? Wait, do I got you in here? Hold on a second.
Folks, if you asked a question and wouldn't mind just exiting so that others can join in, that would be good.
Okay, Butch. Oh, Butch, you do have a question. Okay, Butch. Oh wait, are you not? Is Butch?
Yeah, that's me.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Ask your question.
Hey, first, good evening, everybody. How's everybody doing tonight?
Doing all right.
All right. Listen, just wanted to come in, and I'm actually an agnostic theist, but I was getting more into the Christian faith. My mom is been really hounding me about it, so I've been doing a little bit more reading and research. But the other day, I came across someone who had a good question that I wasn't able to answer. So I thought this would be a good forum to maybe present it to you guys and see if you guys can help me resolve it, if anything. And it kind of started like this. I'm in law school at this time, and New York State just recently passed a law about if an adult leaves a gun unattended, a loaded weapon unattended, and their minor child kills or injures someone, or themselves or someone else with that weapon, then the parent would be held accountable in court. I think you get 5 to 10 years, which is crazy. but they can get up to 5 or 10 years, which is a stiff penalty. But the parents have this dominion over your children. So the person presented that, and then they presented this question about Adam and Eve, and they said, well, God, we as Christians believe that God, has foresight. He can see the future, and God is all powerful. And then he presented it in a way and said, in the Garden of Eden, the tree of knowledge could have been placed at any place. God, when he placed it in a place where he placed it at, knew with 100% certainty that Adam and Eve would eat from the tree and billions would be damned to hell. So is it God who is the person responsible for the billions to go to hell, or is it because of their free will? Now it's interesting to me because when you tie it to secular law, it would seem that God would be responsible for those who go to hell. But if you add free will, then he's not responsible because you have this free will argument that these people are choosing to disobey God. So that's my question. I want to see if you can help me resolve that issue.
Well, the free will argument wouldn't work because God would know the free will choices of anybody in any situation. So it doesn't answer the question. Free will is not something that's independent of God. Philosophically, logically, it's problematic. Adam and Eve, well, there's that. There's another issue is the person asking the question, if he were here and he was asking the question, I would say, let's just say, let's just work with this. Let's just say God's responsible. He knew what was going on from your perspective. Is that wrong? Because that's the question that needs to be asked ultimately. Is it wrong for God to do that? If he said yes, well then he is saying there's a standard above God that he himself is privy to, and he can judge God. And that would be an incredible arrogance. But if he says, well, he doesn't know, then why is he asking the question? So if he says no, then why is he asking the question? Either way, he's going to lose. Now, he doesn't like the idea of God being responsible for certain things, but I would turn him to Romans 9 through 23, and let the Scriptures speak, because the Scriptures deal with this basic issue, and the Scripture says it's not based upon it's not upon man who wills or man who has mercy, but not upon a man who runs or man who wills, but upon God who has mercy. I think it's Romans 9:16, and God's talking about his right to do with his creation as he desires, as Romans 9:22 and 23 says. You'll say to me, why does he still find fault for who resists his will? The thing molded will not say to the molder, why did you make me like this? Does God not have the right to make from the same lump one vessel for honorable use and another for dishonorable use? And he did so in order to, and it goes on. So that's what the Scriptures say. Now people can say, well, we don't like that. Well, you're entitled not to like it. But you can't say it's right and you can't say it's wrong because you don't have a perspective by which you can judge God himself. You only have your perspective, which is a personal, subjective opinion. You can only say you don't like it or you disagree, and that's fine. You don't have to like it, you don't have to agree. But you're not liking it and you're not agreeing has no bearing on whether or not it's true or not, whether or not God is right or not. So basically, that's the problem from his perspective. Now, let's look at it logically from the internal perspective of Scripture. Why is the knowledge of good and evil there? Well, I've wondered about that, and I'm just going to give you my opinion. Just an opinion, and you can take it, leave it, and I would throw this out to an atheist guy and say, this is just my opinion, whatever. Because we're made in the image of God, Genesis 1:26-28, we have certain communicable attributes. Communicable attributes mean those attributes that belong to God that can be communicated to us, such as being reasonable. We can be angry. We can love. We can hate. We can be aware of ourselves, aware of others. We can make moral choices. That's what it means to be made in the image of God. So we're made in the image of God, but also within that image is the issue of responsibility. Now, God created Adam and Eve and said, take care of the garden. Tend it, take care of it. Why? Because we're made in his image. What does God do? He creates the universe. He, so to speak, tends the universe. He keeps it in shape. He keeps it in place, whatever. Because the Bible says, and I forgot exactly where, in Peter, I think, he holds all things together by the exertion of his will, and things like this. There's some verse like that. Maybe somebody could find it while I'm talking here. It's been a long time since I've referenced it. But since we're made in the image of God, we have that responsibility. What responsibility requires knowledge. and requires a knowledge of right and wrong. And so I suspect that the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, I don't know if it's a literal tree. I have no problem with it being a literal tree, and that if you eat from it, you're literally, partaking of knowledge. I don't know what's going on there. I really don't. But if it was a literal tree, which I have no problem with, then that tree would, at the very least, represent the issues of the responsibility that must come with the knowledge that should be had and must come with responsibility to carry out God's will. There's no other way around it. And so I have this theory that the only being who cannot sin is God. Angels can sin, and we know a third of them did, but the elect angels, 1 Timothy 5:21, did not sin. They were chosen not to fall. They're elect angels, so they didn't sin. But they're sentient, and they're going to sin. We're sentient. We're going to sin. I believe, this is my opinion again, that only God possesses holiness, and holiness is the inability to sin, the inability to go against his own nature. We are not holy like God because we're not divine like him, so therefore we don't possess that ability to not sin. We're going to sin. All created things aside from God are going to sin. So I think the responsibility issue is in the garden, that sin is a necessary result of our existence, not because God made it so, but because no one shares in his divine nature. It belongs to God alone, and created things can't share in it, and they're going to sin because that's just the nature of being other than God. And along with that necessity is the issue of the knowledge of good and evil, because that deals with the issue of sin, and I think there's somehow blended in there and is a requirement. I don't think I explained it very well, but
Well,
I can't. Yeah.
It's okay, because I think it's a deep philosophical question.
Yes, it is.
I just wasn't prepared for. But one thing I would just ask before I leave is that, what advice would you give someone like me who's trying to come to the faith, but still is, I'm still having, and I'm just being honest, I'm still having, problems with reconciling what I feel to be true to what I know to be true. And, I have a big Christian family, and they're trying to help. But what advice or what articles or anything that you would advise me to read to help me?
Okay. Well, let me just speak frankly. Okay.
Okay.
No offense to you. No offense to your family. Just a lot of Christians have their heads up their rears and don't know what the truth really is. All right. A lot of them do. Okay. That's just a fact, and that includes me. However, I've been studying this stuff for 35 years. I think I got more answers than most. Doesn't mean I'm right about everything, but I've noticed a lot of Christians will say things, and I'm like, don't say that. That's not correct. That's not correct. It's possible that your family, and I'm sure they're great and they have best intentions. I'm not trying to disrespect them, but I'm sure your family most probably is giving you some inaccurate information on some things because they don't know very much and are not trained. That's not to say they're not great, and I hope you understand. I'm not trying to disrespect your family in that, okay? And are we okay with that so far? You there?
Oh, yes. No, I'm 100% okay.
Okay, good. And the other thing is, I'm gonna warn you about arrogance. We all have a tendency to be arrogant. So here's what I mean, and again, I'm not trying to be insulting in any way. It's just that if you were to look at the things that God does in the Bible and you didn't like them, then what are you doing? Are you saying God's wrong? If you're saying God's wrong, how do you know he's wrong? What standard do you have? Are you saying my standard is right? Because that would be arrogant. If I were to come into your house and tell you how to run your house, you'd say, who are you? Get out of my house, and rightly so, because I don't know your situation. I don't know that. So this kind of a thing, this principle of, well, what basis are you making judgments on? That's what I'm trying to get to, is what real basis is it that you might be using to ascertain two mess ups, to ascertain what truth really is? Because
if you don't mind, if I don't,
sure.
I just want to jump in real quick. I'm not saying that anything particularly is wrong or incorrect. What I'm saying is that my only problem that I'm coming across is that I've seen Muslims, Hindus, there's a whole bunch of varying religions, and to point to one specific religion and say this truth is more over than all others.
Oh.
That is where I'm getting my
Okay.
confusion about it. It's not, and I'm not saying I know which one is best, but you understand what I mean.
Yes, okay. Thank you. I'm sorry I didn't understand you. My apologies. All right, here we go. The reason Christianity is true and all the others are wrong is because of the person of Jesus Christ. Jesus fulfilled prophecies in the Old Testament. Some of them are vague, some of them are not vague. And Jesus died on the cross and rose from the dead. That is what makes Christianity different. There might be legends. Now, let me finish this because it's important. You might say, well, there's other legends in religions that talk about resurrections. But here's the difference. Real quickly, the book of Acts was written roughly around 60 AD because it does not contain the death of Peter and Paul, which happened around 62 to 64 AD. Peter and Paul are extremely significant historical markers, and the book of Acts is a book of history about the early church. So most probably, it's logical to say it was written before their deaths. It makes perfect sense, since it records both of them and their actions and doings in the book. Well, Luke wrote the book of Luke before he wrote the book of Acts. Let's just say 5 years for quick math. That would mean 55 AD. Matthew was written before that. Let's say another 5 years. That means 50 AD. Mark was written before that. That'd be about 45 AD. This principle means roughly that the Gospels were written very early and not hundreds of years later for legend to creep in and then other legends to say so-and-so rose in our religious system, because there are other religions that have legends of people rising from the dead. But the information that they have is written down hundreds and hundreds of years after the fact. That's different than Christianity, which the Gospels, at least Matthew and John, were written by eyewitnesses, and Luke was a disciple of Peter. And Luke got this information from the other disciples, and he wrote it down. It looked like it was a legal document. The book of Acts is a legal document for a trial, possibly, for Paul the Apostle. So it's written very early on, and it's meant to be historically accurate. So because of this, we would say then that the documents are written early, and I could go through this. They are historically accurate in this. Well, let me say this. They're copied very, very accurately. I've done research on this. I can read the New Testament Greek, translate it into English. It is translated into English very easily, very accurately. I'm going to my shelf to grab a book just to show you something. There's this New Testament, for example, which I'm just showing it to you. It's called the New Testament here, and it's in Greek. This is Greek, all right? You can look at it if you want, not a big deal. But in here it has what's called the textual apparatus, and this is basically demonstrating the reliability of the New Testament documents. These are files of documents, listings of documents of the New Testament, and it goes on and on and on. And the New Testament copies are something like 99.95 or 96, 99.5 to 99.7% textually identical. The point is, they're written early, they're transmitted very accurately. We have eyewitness accounts of the resurrection of Christ. Not enough time for legend. The resurrection is the proof that what Jesus said was true. That's the proof of his truth. And Jesus said in John 14:6, I'm the way, the truth, and the life, and nobody comes to the Father but by me. If it's true that Jesus rose from the dead, which validates what he said, then what he said means all other religious systems are not true. Hence, Christianity is the only true one.
Well, that was a great explanation, and I want to thank you for taking the time, and I'll hopefully see you guys next week. Thanks again, Matt.
Hey, Butch. I'd like to add one thing to that as well, because there is one thing in my study of different world religions and systematizing them that helped me really clarify what makes Christianity unique and why I argue there's only two religions in the entire world.
Yes.
There is a religion of human effort and a religion of divine effort. And when you look at every religion and what it teaches, how man gets in a right state with God, you will find Islam, Judaism, Catholicism, Hinduism, Buddhism, all of them will teach a works-based system. Even if, like in Roman Catholicism, it's faith plus works, the ultimate thing that is going to get you in a right state with God is you being a good person, you doing something good to merit that right state with God. And what Christianity is unique in is saying that it is only what God did on that cross when He died and acted as our punishment, because He is an eternal being. He can pay an eternal fine. Becoming a man, He can pay a fine for men. That's why it's so important. The resurrection proves that Jesus Christ was fully God, fully man. And the reason that's important is because being fully God and fully man, Christ can be the payment for men. And that's what makes Christianity unique. It's the only religion that teaches a divine effort and not human effort in getting right with God.
Amen.
Wow. Well, listen, you guys gave me a lot to think about. I'm actually glad I waited so long to ask my questions. So, listen, thanks again, guys, and I will continue to watch.
And don't forget that this is recorded. So if there's anything that you didn't get, you can go back, and we're at about the 2-hour mark, 2-hour-ish mark right about now. So
does this mean this is where you give the sign off with the?
Well, I don't know. Should we do the sign off? It's a lot easier to it's a lot easier for me to just kind of hang out and not have to worry about too much stuff when we're just talking off the cuff and not recording.
Look, if you want to give Tim a hard time, you could do like I did and let it go for 3 hours or 4 hours. But
well, he told me I could go for however long I want. That's what he told me. So I can. You know, we could go up to 8 hours. That's what it said when we started out the hangout. So, this guy John's here. Wait, was that the guy we were talking to before? The guy that left, was that John? I think that was. Let's see here. We'll show him in broadcast. Hey, John.
Well, there is someone. Yeah. There is a random atheist who's asking a question.
Random atheist. Oh, wait. Hold on one second. Random atheist? You have a. Let's see here. Have you been chatting with him?
Random atheist has a specific question.
Well,
okay.
You want to mute his mic?
Go ahead, random atheist.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
I appreciate your time. I've watched a bunch of your shows. My question is, what's your opinion on teaching creationism in schools? Should you keep it out of public schools or bring it into public schools?
Well,
Okay.
I can answer that.
But can you answer it with your cats making that same noise as the dogs?
Yeah. All right. I think that the fact that
Sorry
the
about
government
that. My 12 went nuts as soon as I talked.
The government actually approved of the Bible being used in public schools and education in the first few decades of the founding of this country, the people who founded this country. So yeah, there shouldn't be any problem with it being taught. They shouldn't teach, I don't think, things that are just stupid, but you probably have not studied creationism or intelligent design and things like that. There are counter theories to the evidence that we find in fossil records, but it is suppressed and not allowed to be taught in school. There are plenty of people who have problems with evolution, but it's suppressed. If we're going to say, ought we to teach creationism, what are we really asking? Are we saying we want religion to be taught, or are we saying we want facts to be taught? Because if we want facts to be taught, then views need to be proposed. And if they can hold up under examination, then let them hold up under examination. But when we have an intelligentsia inside the education community that is restricting what is taught and saying that intelligent design, as an example, cannot be taught because it's just religion and they don't understand what it really is and what it's about, well, then what they're doing is a very thing that the question in a connotative sense asks, you know, should creationism, hence religious ideas, be taught? Well, evolution is a philosophical approach to things that cannot be proven to be true, as is science. It's a philosophy. There are certain religious moral aspects associated with both of those assumptions, and yet these are the dominant positions held within education. So, back to your question, should creationism be taught in school? You're talking about a moral issue. ought it be taught morally? That's a different question than ought it be taught as another theory for people to make decisions on. That's another discussion. So it depends on which sense you mean.
I think that with the issue with evolution, that might be a little bit of a different issue because of the consensus of the scientific,
Well,
one of my issues is abiogenesis, because I remember when I was in school, they were teaching things like the Miller experiment, and we know that those situations, those circumstances are unrealistic. They believe that there would be more so a volcanic gaseous scenario.
Well, wait, hold on a second, my friend, because let's wait till Random Atheist is finished.
Yeah, I actually had a question for Random Atheist. Do you?
Oh, he was doing great.
Yeah, no. I'm curious to something with him. I want to see. Do you support the action in Ohio where they argued that teaching intelligent design is teaching religion and therefore it shouldn't be in school?
I think intelligent design is just another way of saying creationism. It's the same really field, basically, in my opinion.
But so
it's just a different name.
So do you support the decision in Ohio to not teach intelligent design because it is teaching a religious system or teaching faith?
To keep it out of the classroom, yeah, because it can't be proven scientifically. Evolution can be proven scientifically.
No.
Actually, no, that's the thing. Evolution can't be proven scientifically, and it is the leading reason people believe that they're atheists. So that is teaching a religious doctrine.
All right. How is evolution of religion?
I'd like to respond to this if I can.
Go ahead. I'm going to go downstairs and I'm going to mute myself. Go downstairs. And I'll explain why a little bit, and I'll be listening. And I'll come back in a minute.
Yeah, let Random finish, and then if you have something to say after him, you can go ahead. So where were we with this, Andrew?
Well, yeah, I had asked the question. I know True Talk was trying to answer, which you muted him, and I think that was just True Talk. You understand? John did that just because he's trying to keep one person to interact with the host. Just so you understand, it's nothing against you. But Random. I don't know what your name is, so I guess I'm just going to call you Random.
Just call me Bob.
Bob? Is that your real name, or is that just Bob?
No, it's just Bob.
Why is it that so many professing atheists never want to give their real names online? But all right,
I am. This is just my YouTube handle. It's okay.
So
I do profess my atheism to everybody that I know, though. This is just
if you truly believe what you say you believe, then why won't you use your real name? I use my real name. Andrew uses his real name. It's
well. Let's not distract with that.
Yeah, okay.
So Random. Here's the question for you. When you say that evolution, you were arguing, with evolution, and now I want to clarify because I just want to make sure that I don't misapply what was said to you that may have been from True Talk. Did you say the consensus of evolution? Were you talking about the consensus of science teaches evolution?
The consensus of science?
Was that you or True Talk that said that?
I didn't say consensus at all.
Okay, good. All right.
True Talk likes to talk like that, but not me.
Yeah. I just didn't want to assign something to you that you didn't say, thinking it was you. So would you agree that most people that profess to be atheists and believing in atheism do so based on the teachings of evolution?
I can't speak for most people. You can be an atheist and not accept evolution. So the two are, they are separate in that regard. You don't have to accept one to accept the other. Like, you can be a Catholic and be an evolutionary biologist. It's possible.
Okay, but the majority of people that profess to be atheists, would they argue that they do so based on the belief in evolution?
I really don't know. I can only speak for me.
Okay, so speak for yourself. Do you believe that in atheism because you believe evolution to be true?
No.
So if evolution is proven false, you would still argue that you're an atheist.
If evolution is proven false, it doesn't mean a God exists. It would just mean something else explains how life is present on Earth at this time.
Okay. So the reason I'm going down this route is because this is the argument that was laid against the intelligent design argument in schools, was that it teaches a religious belief, which 2009 the Supreme Court ruled that atheism is a religion in this country, and evolution is taught as one of its key doctrines. So if you're going to be consistent with your question of should it be taught in school, then truthfully you should argue that evolution as well should not be taught in school, because it is...
That wasn't my question.
Your question was should creationism be taught in school?
Okay, because teaching creationism from the Christian perspective opens the floodgates for all the other religious groups in the country to say, hey, why isn't our story also being taught in public schools? Would you want the story that the Church of Scientology, for example, their nuclear bombs and volcanoes or whatever it is, would you want that taught in public schools also?
Well, the issue is, here's the real issue. Why are we teaching philosophy and calling it science?
What part of evolution is philosophy?
Okay, so science is based on observation, correct?
Observation with evidence, yeah.
Okay, observation, repeatability?
Observation and testing and repeating that test and determining a result, yeah.
Okay, so what science proves the creation of the universe or evolution since we have not observed it?
Well, I'm not a physicist, so I can't say how we exactly prove it.
No, a physicist has not observed it. You see, the only science for the creation of the universe is in the Bible, where God
that's not
who
science.
observed it.
It's an ancient religious text.
No, it is a historical text written by the person who observed it. And that's the point. You see, when you use historical science, that's philosophy. That's arguing for, well, we look at evidence, and therefore we conclude a conclusion we start with. For example, when we see red blood cells in a T-Rex, and we say, well, it can't possibly be red blood cells in a T-Rex because red blood cells can't last that long. Well, what's the actual fact? The actual fact is red T-Rex blood cells that we have and have found. Instead of questioning the fact that maybe a T-Rex is not as old as assumed, instead they question how could red blood cells last that long. And we have this with many things. We have that with why is the moon still on our gravitational pull? Why does Saturn still have its rings? Why do we still have a spiral galaxy? Why do we have blue stars? Countless things. But if you start with the conclusion, evolution is true, as you stated, millions of years, and all these other conclusions that are starting points, then you're not doing science. You're doing a philosophy. Do you see the difference there or no?
Yeah, but we can see evolution and progress. There were, let's see, these. I forget what year it was.
We can see evolution.
They had lizards on an island for 30 years, and when they came back, they were completely different.
Well,
they had evolved to fit on that island.
Let's be really specific, because when people speak about evolution, they use a foundation using the term evolution two different ways. Are you talking general or special evolution?
What's the difference?
Well, what we would call, we know what, as a fact, true, what is deemed evolution, genetics. Taking an animal, and as was someone argued earlier in this podcast, that the reason against incest would be because you lose the genetic makeup and you end up creating something that has weaknesses, right? What we do know genetically is that we can lose information. I take 2 wolves and I stick them in Alaska. Over generations, those that have a dominance for long hair are going to survive better. And therefore, within several generations, you won't have short-haired dogs. That's genetics. That's what's called special evolution, or what's sometimes called microevolution.
That's still evolution. That's still evolution.
And that's why I'm asking the terminology, because
you're adding a qualifier to it when there doesn't need to be a qualifier.
Well, no, I'm not. I'm removing the bait and switch. You see, we take what the Bible talks about of kinds of animals, and
which the Bible doesn't define clearly.
Well, I'm sorry that God did not speak in 21st century language to people who were not in the 21st century. But you do the same thing. Have you ever seen a sunrise?
Every day.
Every day? You mean the sun revolves around the earth?
I mean, every day I'm up early enough and I see the sun before I go to work.
Yeah, but see, the sun doesn't revolve around the earth. You don't see the sun rise, you see the earth rotate.
Right.
So why do you speak in such imprecise language?
Because that's the way we both understand the word of sunrise.
Okay, so God speaks in the language of kind to general people that understand that this is a general thing, and you're arguing it's not correct because he's not specific enough for you scientifically. But you're not being consistent with that. So
how am I not being consistent with that?
God speaks of kinds of animals. That's his language, and there's nothing wrong with that genetically. But what we see in the scientific community is a bait and switch. We take what we know to be true in genetics, and then we say, well, therefore, this general evolution must be true, that one kind of animal becomes another, even though that there's no scientific proof for that. There's no observation of that. It's an assumption that's made because you start with a conclusion. And that's where the issue is. And that's not been proven. Yet that's exactly what's taught. I'm curious, what kind of animal do you think we're closest related to?
We are closely genetically related to chimps and bonobos.
And then why
Those
is
are our closest relatives on the tree?
That supposedly in the tree, but that's actually not a scientific fact. What is a fact is that we take pig organs and we can put pig organs within a human being because that's what we're genetically close to. We've put pig lungs, kidneys, even hearts within a human being because genetically we're matched there. You can't do that with a chimpanzee. And so the point I'm trying to make with you is I understand that the argument is made to be very general, that evolution is a proven fact. What is a proven fact is something that no one disagrees with, and that's the genetics of it, okay?
Actually, evolution is a scientific theory, and theory is the highest ranking they give in science.
No, it isn't. It's a law. Things like the law of gravity. You start with a hypothesis. If a hypothesis, it then moves to theory, and then it moves to a law. So it's not the highest. I'm sorry. I would strongly recommend. I'd strongly recommend to you that you question your own presuppositions that you approach this with, and really reevaluate it. And I'll tell you why I recommend that for you. Because of a very simple. Go say.
You still diverted from the original point I was bringing up. Why bring in creationism stories, but not these other religion stories? Why should we bring in one, but not all of them? You bring in one, it opens up all the floodgates.
The issue I brought up was, the issue of not teaching. I wouldn't argue for teaching necessarily creation in school. I wouldn't be as opposed to the teaching, intelligent design, but the in a science class. But the reality is that why teach Christian? Because it's true. You teach the truth in school. Because
See,
without
every other religion will say the same thing about their creation myth, and that's where the argument comes in.
Now, and look,
how do you know which one to stick with?
And here's your how you know that we're listen to the language you use, a creation myth. See, even in your language, you expose the presupposition that your starting point already negates any possibility of understanding the truth. Without God, you can't understand anything. You can't know anything. How can you have
you to assert that?
Say again?
That's great for you to assert that, but
okay,
so someone who doesn't believe in God, I don't need that point for this.
Wait.
Without God, I can't believe anything. Fine.
So you deny that God
prove
exists, correct?
That your story is true.
You deny that God exists?
I said I don't believe in any.
Okay,
I've never said one doesn't
believe.
exist.
Can you pour me a cup of belief?
Yeah.
Is belief a material thing?
Yeah, it's a believable thing. It's a physical thing. Yeah, I can pour you a cup of belief right now.
You can pour me a cup of belief. How about an ability to reason?
You don't believe me?
How about an ability to reason? Is that material?
Yes.
Really? And what type of material is that?
You know.
You said you believe it. I don't know because it's not material. It's an immaterial thing. Just like morality, just like intelligence, just like knowledge, and all these things that you rely on when you deny that you have a belief in God, you're relying on God to deny God. That's what you're doing. And here's why it's such an important thing, though, Random, is because...
You're asserting your God is true without proving it. There's no actual evidence other than your argumentation. You can argue something all day, but without evidence, it's not true.
Okay, what kind of evidence would convince you?
Your God would know what it would take for him to convince me that he was real.
He's already done that, so you already know he exists.
Has he?
Let me ask you a question.
Then why don't I believe him if he's already given everything that I would take for me to believe?
You suppress the truth and unrighteousness. Do you go to the malls?
I accept evidence, and I accept,
So you accept scientific evidence?
For the most part, yeah.
Okay. Do you accept any other kind of evidence?
What other kind is there?
I'm asking. Do you only accept scientific evidence or not?
What other kind is there?
Well, we could look at philosophy. We could look at what I'm giving you with the presuppositional argument that you're trying to argue against. So the reality is that if you're arguing that the only evidence you're going to accept is that from a natural world, from a material world, to prove an immaterial thing, then that would be like me demanding from you to tell me how many feet 8 gallons of water weigh. Could you answer that?
How many feet 8 gallons of water weigh?
Yeah.
They're different units of measurement, different.
Correct.
Different entirely, so no.
Correct. So you're demanding evidence, but you want to set it
for
up
something there is no evidence for.
Well, you're demanding evidence, but you're asking for evidence that only gives you a wrong measurement. So I'm giving you the right measurement, and you wanted to reject that and just say, well, that's an assertion. Well, without the assertion, you can't account for how you know anything apart from God.
How do you know that?
Because God has revealed himself to every human being. Well, let me ask you this.
How do you know that?
You read blog sites about atheism?
Occasionally.
Occasionally. Do you read magazines or articles about atheism?
No.
Okay. So do you go to the malls and you ever see like Santa Claus sitting there?
In December, yeah.
And do you ever argue that he does that? Do you go up to him and say he's not real, he doesn't exist?
The person physically in the suit is real.
Do you argue that Santa Claus is not real?
I don't
Why not?
Because I'm not an asshole in front of a bunch of kids.
Or is it because we all know that Santa Claus doesn't exist?
You're going to say that in front of a bunch of kids that Santa Claus doesn't exist? What kind of person are you?
I was in first grade because I was raised Jewish. Yeah, I made someone unhappy. Oh well. But the reality is you don't go reading books about Santa Claus not existing, do you?
No.
Because we know he doesn't exist. The reason
How do we know that, though?
You want the proof that you know God exists because you argue against his existence.
Well, Santa was based on a real guy, and the mythology got based around him.
And God is a real person. And here's the thing, random. Here's the thing that concerns me the most with it is I understand that you want to come in sounding intelligent, sounding like you're open-minded. We've in this short discussion shown you don't understand science as well as you'd like to, and even understanding the three different levels of, thinking a theory is the highest level. You aren't open-minded. You're very closed-minded because you don't accept the supernatural. Here's the real concern.
There's no evidence for supernatural. That's why.
There's what?
There's no evidence for supernatural things. Are you scared of the boogeyman?
Okay, let me do an experiment with you to show you what you're doing.
Are you afraid of the boogeyman?
No, he doesn't exist.
How do you know he doesn't exist?
Because God says so. So now,
God
what you're doing,
boogeyman?
What you're doing now is you're starting with a conclusion. And every time what you're doing is you're taking a device, a life-saving device, to argue against what's right in front of you, and then you demand that you say that there is no evidence. So what you're doing is you start with a conclusion. You have what's called a confirmed bias. You're ignoring, because you just said you don't accept any supernatural. There's no evidence for supernatural. Supernatural, by definition, will not fit into your evidence category. By definition of being supernatural. So you're using a wrong...
If you tell me there's a ghost in your house, I'm going to be like, no, there's not.
Why?
Do you believe in ghosts?
Yeah, there are immaterial beings as called spirits.
Do you believe
Every
in ghosts?
human being has one.
Okay.
So what you're doing when you, please don't assume that you're open-minded if you're going to reject anything supernatural, because you're closed-minded to supernatural, and to demand for evidence of the supernatural using the natural world, that is like me demanding of you how many feet does 8 gallons of water weigh. It's a wrong measurement.
Definitionally, yes, it's a wrong measurement. You can't ask for that.
You want proof of God's existence, but you're rejecting that very proof. So here's why this concerns me, Random, is because you are going to face God on Judgment Day. And when you face Him, whether you and I like it or not, I don't like it any more than you that you and I break God's law and are sinners. Okay? And we're going to face Him, and because He's perfectly holy and perfectly just, He's going to have to punish us, whether we like it or not. That's my concern.
Well, in my case, I'll be able to...
Oh, I think you were muted somehow.
Is that you, Tim? I think that was Tim. I think Tim muted him. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, we got 2 Bible thumping wingnuts in here.
Yeah, we got twins in here.
Well, he's unmuted now because we hear the dogs.
I wanted Andrew to finish what he was saying before Random spoke again, because it was the most important thing that Andrew has said so far.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Andrew.
And Random, I will ask later what kind of dogs you got. They get sound like the little small ones. But the reason I'm most concerned about this for someone like you, Random, is you seem to be someone who is trying to argue against something that, A, it seems you don't really understand, and argue for something that, again, it seems you don't fully understand. And my concern is that because you and I are going to face God when we die, he is going to judge us. And my concern is for where you might spend eternity. My concern is what's going to happen the second after you die. Because when you stand before God, the argument of saying to God, I didn't believe you exist, is not going to matter. He's going to judge you based on what you do know and what he's revealed to you. And I tried to show you a way to see how you could know that you know who God is in the suppression of it. So now I think Random just put into chat for folks that his dogs are barking and he wants me to type that out. What I'll say is this: I mean, you could listen to the podcast again. What I am going to do is post a link for a message for you to listen to. You could go to strivingforeternity.org and listen to a message called it's right in the front, called "The Most Important Message You Could Ever Hear," and I'm going to post that in the chat for you, that you'd be able to listen to it a longer clip. I encourage you to do that, to listen to it, because I can only speak for myself. I know Matt Slick very well enough to know that he would agree with this. Neither one of us are here to try to win a debate or we're not here to argue with people for the sake of arguing. We're here because we care for people like you, Random, with where you'd spend eternity. That's what I'm concerned with most. And I understand that we have differing views that are going to keep you from hearing that, but that's the thing that concerns me the most, is where you might spend eternity. So I don't know, I know your dogs are barking and you couldn't really hear completely, but you started saying earlier that when you stand before God, you think you're going to have an answer for him. What answer do you think you could give to God, who has revealed himself to you, even though you suppress that? What answer do you think you can give to God that's going to be acceptable to him? I know you mute. You're not.
I heard that last part. Sorry.
Do you need me to repeat the last part?
What would I answer to God?
When you stand before God, and he's going to judge you for your denial of him, what do you think you're going to be able to answer him that isn't going to be worthy of being judged?
Well, if your God is the one true one, and he judges me when I die, I might bring up, all the things he brought up that made me not believe in him. War started in his name, beheadings, anything. Babies getting cancer.
Okay, beheadings is Islam.
That'd be an interesting conversation.
Beheadings would be Islam, not Christianity. Babies having cancer.
He allows those to happen.
That's right, because man chose to sin, and Satan chose to sin. So your argument is going to be, God, you can't judge me because I rebelled against you?
No, we need to have a conversation about this, Jesus, or in Salvador.
Say again? I don't understand what you mean by that.
It was an X-Men reference. Sorry.
Oh, okay. I'm not big on pop culture. If that was a movie reference, sorry. I don't get out much, I guess.
Sorry. The preview for the new X-Men movie, Apocalypse took the old names of Krishna, Ra, and Yahweh, is what he said in the thing. So.
Okay.
Sorry, that was just me trying to be funny.
No, I never mind humor, but I don't always get it. If it's movie references like that, I don't get it. Sorry. but
I'm packed up about that. Sorry, I apologize for that.
No, but on a serious note, seriously, I understand. Trust me, I understand the desire to want to deny that God exists, because if God doesn't exist, none of us are accountable to him, right? I mean, we would agree with that, correct?
Say again, that none of us are.
Would you agree that if God doesn't exist, we wouldn't be accountable to him, right? We can't be accountable to a being that doesn't exist.
If God doesn't exist, we're accountable to ourselves, to each
Correct.
other.
And isn't that really
And
what
it's that
we want?
to each other part that we should pay attention to more, regardless of if there's a God or not. We need to be accountable to each other.
Yeah. And that's an interesting thing that you bring up, because every time where you see Christianity, biblical Christianity, come into a culture, you see the culture caring for one another. And when you see atheism thriving, you see mass murders, like in Russia, China under communism. And atheism has killed more people in the last 100 years than all of the arguments for religious wars from all the religions.
The Crusades.
Yeah, because the Crusades killed in the thousands, not the millions. Big difference.
And what war was started specifically in the name of atheism?
Well, look at communism. Communism is a core belief of communism is that you must believe that there is no God, and that is why they killed so many Christians, Jews, Hindus, Buddhists. They murdered them, okay, because of their religious belief. So the thing is I would really you're playing a game of spiritual Russian roulette with your soul. And you're doing so based on what you wish to be true, not what you know to be true. And you're doing it on misinformation. It doesn't matter.
I'm here waving my arms at the camera to get your attention, and I don't have my camera on.
Say again?
You bring that up. I said I'm here waving my arms at the camera to get your attention, and I don't have my camera on. That's how messed up I am right now. No, I'm not wearing a shirt. You don't want to see that.
So Matt, you're right, back now.
Hold on. Let me touch on what you just said about Russian roulette. Okay. What I love about dang it, what's it called? The one where either believe in God or basically what's the name of the argument? I can't think of it. I'm sorry. Somebody in the side chat help me out. Pascal's wager. Thank you, C. Damon. What I love about that is you can look at it from the other side. There are all these other religions, and who's to tell that yours is right?
Well, you know what the problem is with Pascal's wager?
Right.
The problem with Pascal's wager is Pascal's wager assumes that there's a possibility that you don't know who God is, and yet God says he has revealed himself to everyone, and everyone knows God exists, but they suppress that. And so the problem with Pascal's wager is it assumes that people don't know God exists, and yet they do.
Where is that in Pascal's wager? Where does it state that at?
Well, the Pascal's wager is the argument of well, better to believe because there could be a chance that you could be wrong, like looking at the different possibilities. God's not a possibility, though. That's the point. It's not a possible. It's an absolute. It's an axiom. Okay, and so the concern that I have is if you think that you can stand before God and argue, well, God, you allowed sin, you allowed people to rebel against you, therefore you can't judge us for rebelling against you. That's going to be a really weak argument, and that's going to get you judged. And that's why I say it's you're playing spiritual Russian roulette. You're playing Russian roulette with your soul. Because you're arguing that you're going to take your chances, play Pascal's wager, to use what you were arguing, in the chance that God doesn't exist.
No, what I was saying is if you look at it from the stance of all the religions out there, who's to say that the one you pick is right? With all the religions that are out there.
Yeah, I don't. Earlier we already gave that out. I mean, Christianity is the only religion based on divine effort, not human effort.
Well, that's what Christianity says, and that's what I imagine
God says.
All the other religions would say.
See, but the reality is,
they would say their God said.
But the reality is, you have already shown that you have confirmed bias to no matter what evidence I give you, you're going to excuse it away because you're not open-minded. And that's my concern.
I am open-minded if there's evidence to support what they're claiming.
Okay, so you accept the supernatural.
I don't accept supernatural, no.
Then you're not open-minded because you just closed your mind to everything supernatural. Is God natural or supernatural?
Supernatural.
So when you say
Like
that the
arguing Thor and
supernatural, when you say that the supernatural does not exist, then you're not open-minded because you don't accept any evidence that would actually prove God. That's my point. And that's your problem.
And the evidence you'd have would be supernatural. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. It would be immaterial, like your ability to reason, knowledge, truth, morality, all these things that are immaterial. Those would be things that would be in the realm of not the natural world. These would be
so you can't prove something supernatural, so you can't prove it.
I didn't say that. I said, and I'll clarify, I said you are not open-minded and you reject any evidence for the very thing you're demanding evidence for. I'm sorry, but that's foolishness.
Can you test supernatural evidence?
I've given you several of them. Here's the thing.
Can you test them?
Here's the thing.
You know, there's a problem here. There's a problem. There's a problem. You guys he's not seeing.
Yeah, I know.
You test it. That right there is the assumption of the validity of naturalism and the scientific method as the methodology for determining God's existence. That's an assumption that cannot be demonstrated to be true to begin with, for you to be able to say, can you test it? It's a problem that you've got. Your worldview says, test everything. Just test it. That's how truth is known, by testing. How do you know? Do you test humility? Do you are you able to quantify what humility is, or my love for my wife, or how many times I've had to put up with my children's idiocy when something was going wrong, 2 years ago, or whatever. You don't live the way you require God to be subjected to for your satisfaction. Exactly. You want God to be subjected to your criteria and your ability to think and your testability, but you don't live your life that way. Suddenly, God is the one who has to submit himself, and the whole category of God's got to be subjected to your personal criteria of acceptability. And you want testability. Well, the scientific method can't even be tested to show that it's true, because it's based on assumptions. How do you know that God, and Andrew was right, how do you know that God is going to be testable? You would look for the things that are miraculous in a supernatural realm. You'd look for the kind of evidence that would exist if God existed. So if you were to presuppose, for example, God existed, what kind of things might you look for to see if God existed? Universal truths, universal morals, universal design and continuity of nature. You would look for things like that. But if you want to find, well, here's how God is knowable, and I'm not reducing your idea to this, but this is just an illustration. We know God can be determined to be true if we put the eyedropper chemicals in that chemical over there, it turns a different color. See, now we can show God exists. And I know you're not saying something that mundane, but the idea of testability in a laboratory is restricted to the issue of the material realm, because that's all testability is, in the material realm. How do you test, for example, God? It's like a person. So how would you test me and my sincerity? How would you test my sincerity or my integrity before you? How would you test my honesty before you, and things like that, and the issues of personhood?
Or how would you test the argument that you made that everything is testable? Can you test that statement?
You can't, without begging the question.
And so the real issue, Random, is God is an axiom. That's on you prove. You can't prove axioms. They are true.
I do believe you can prove God's existence by the impossibility of the contrary. That's my opinion. But go ahead.
Yeah. So what have you? I see you just put in post. You've seen his blank before. Who are you speaking about? Random.
Oh, true empiricism. He asked me to add him to Skype, and no, I don't want to talk to him.
Okay.
Well,
All right.
I've seen his assertions against Fiona and stuff like that, and no.
Okay.
Well, if I can,
I'm not even a scientist, so I'm not going to mess with his stuff.
Well, and that's there right there is the, I'm glad you admit. I mean, you seem like a genuinely nice individual, and I'm glad that you argue that, because there are some areas where you're claiming to science and you don't really understand science all that well, and you want proof, but you're not holding a consistent argument in what you're saying. It's as if Matt's like what Matt was saying. How do you prove his love for his wife? Everyone's going to have a different view of how to prove someone's love or something, right?
I could probably talk to Matt and talk to his wife.
Yeah, but that's not proof. Because you want proof for God's existence. Proof is for mathematics and physics and things like that, and logic.
Proof that you love your wife would be something different than proving a problem in physics. All right,
and
that's
not exactly
what
what
the
Matt's
same thing.
Yeah,
and that's what Matt's trying to say with you, is that you're going to say, well, if Matt loves his wife, what things would be true of Matt? It's not going to be proof scientifically. You're going to look at the effects. And that's what Matt is saying to you need to do with God. Can you prove God in that concept? Yes, you can.
How?
Well, Matt already gave you. Look at
contrary.
Well,
well, hold on. Let Matt answer. Matt was starting, so it's his argument. I'll let him answer.
Do you know what a disjunctive syllogism is? When you only have two options, one's negated, the other one is automatically proven.
Yeah, I saw the video with Skylar, so yeah.
Okay, well, it's a logical principle, and it's true. And if you only have two options, God, not God, there is no third option. You have the thing and the negation of the thing. Well, you only have two possibilities in this scenario to be able to account for something. If one of them can be proven to not work, the other one is proven by default. It's called the impossibility of the contrary. So it's that simple principle. If we could show, for example, that the no God position cannot account for certain things, and not just certain things like, hey, the tiddlywink, look, it's blue and agree. No, we're talking about issues that govern our worldviews and that inform our existence, the issues that matter. And even tiddlywinks is part of what matters and the ultimate thing, because it has to do with probability and chance and design. But nevertheless, you see, it's these kinds of things, and and so I like to, and I'm known for saying, basically, in atheism, there is no way for atheism to ultimately account for the laws of logic, which are universal transcendental absolutes. No way to account for any objective morals by which something can be said to be right or to be wrong. That's not to say atheists can't have morals, but they can't justify them as being right or being wrong. And also our own existence. Atheism cannot account for our own existence, where it just can't. The Christian one can in all of these things. But the logic is, since the atheistic worldview can't do this, therefore it can't be true. The other view is proven to be true by the impossibility of the contrary.
Can I jump on that really quick?
Sure.
Well, yeah, I love how you just said that too about a true dichotomy, because we're gonna try to prove creation, right? As theists, theism is the belief in a personal, interactive, creative God behind the influence of the universe. So our theism is going to be without that. And one of the premises of atheism is obviously going to be a negation, a rejection of creative intent being the result of the universe, right? So let's look at that. We don't have to get in depth in everything. But if you look at, for example, abiogenesis, I've brought this up repeatedly in the past. If you look at abiogenesis, everything is conjectural at its core. There is biological material that's being produced and that is being formed, but a lot of it, like Sasta experiments, to where he's got this ocean foam, and he believes that some sort of pre-RNA can be developed. There's no evidence demonstrating that that's the case. But in the reverse, if you look at where sequence information comes from, if you look at, for example, the mitochondria, the motors inside of the mitochondria, the cause of the effect that we've always seen to produce motors has always come from intelligence.
True. You're going way off on something else here when they're discussing something, my man. If you have a little something to say, then that's, well, you're gone. Okay. He left. But, yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. I was not focusing in on exactly what you guys were saying. I was doing a couple other things on the computer here, so I don't know where.
Well, one thing. I mean, let's just and Random, just going to take a side point just to deal with what John just happened with John is for folks watching. I mean, we're trying to have discussions here. I understand that the gentleman who came in was, kept kind of breaking John's rule and unmuting himself and trying to answer random atheist, and that's just, I would encourage him to get his own podcast, his own hangout, and have at it. But we do try to follow the rules. You'll see in here, even if because on Sunday nights that's where Matt gets the primary speaking, and if Matt's here and speaking, the rest of us kind of, bow to him. Now we try to give respect, and we try to show respect to the individuals, in this case random atheists who we're talking to, and we try not to have everyone jumping in. I've done a lot of the Google Hangouts where I'm the only Christian and I got everyone else is a professing atheist, and they're all just going one after the other, and you can never get a good dialogue going. And that's what we're trying to do here. I mean, you see it with Matt, with the several people he's talked to. He's asking them what they believe, trying to get an understanding of where their belief system is at, not just make an assumption of what everyone believes, but try to understand the individual person and then engage with that. And it does make it hard if everyone's jumping in. And so, folks that are seeing what, that John, muted the guy, he kept unmuting himself, and then he left because I guess maybe he was frustrated. I don't know. But there's a reason that John did what he did. Sorry about that random.
I'm not trying to be a jerk with that or anything, but yeah, we have to.
I mean, you're normally a jerk. You just didn't want to be a jerk with that. No.
Yeah, I normally am, but that particular thing I didn't want to be a jerk to, but yeah.
Hey, so since Tim is here, my question for Tim is, Tim, what have you eaten today? Is he still here with or is he just
He could. I don't know. He could just be in the thing there. Normally, he's like 10 o'clock. I got to go to sleep. I got to be at work tomorrow. So he must have had a lot to. He must have had a lot to eat. He can't. He can't sleep yet. I don't know.
So for those who don't know, Tim and Len have started. If you're on Facebook, the Bible Thumping Wingnut Facebook page, there is a Bible Thumping Wingnut. I'm trying to look it up so I can tell you what it's called, but it's the Bible Thumping Wingnut Weight Loss Challenge, and that started yesterday, where people are trying to encourage one another to get fit and lose weight, and so that's why I was asking Tim what he was eating.
Oh, that's right. That did start. I would love to join in on that, but I'm too broke to be skinny. I don't have the finance. I don't think ramen noodles.
Yeah, you can.
Diet there.
Get MyFitness app or MyFitnessPal app. That's what I'm using, and I'm losing weight. It really helps.
Yeah, Matt, I'll put in. There's my handle in there. You can add me as a friend, and I use that. Not always well, but so Random. What kind of dogs do you have there?
Yeah,
I've got Chihuahuas, and I'm trying to mute every time they start barking, and I really apologize for that.
Oh no, that's all right.
I don't want to take up any more time. I'll let, so you guys can talk to more people.
Yeah, whatever.
Well, I do, seriously, I appreciate you coming in. I do hope, I gave you that link earlier, maybe something you could listen to, but I do hope you'd give serious consideration to some of the stuff we were saying, because it is important. This isn't just an intellectual debate that we're trying to have here. I personally am really concerned with where you're going to spend eternity, and some of the arguments you have would be concerning. And you should be concerned to say, if you really want to know the truth, then you shouldn't be closed-minded to the supernatural, because you're not going to get the answers by ignoring it.
Can I interject about the supernatural thing?
Yeah.
Is it okay? The atheist guy, what's your name? What?
Bob.
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 Okay, I don't know, Bob. I'm just going to offer something. You can just do what you want with it. I hope you would believe, or at least assume, I would not lie to you or exaggerate. Okay, but I can tell you, I have seen with a witness, with my own eyes, no drugs, no sleep deprivation, no this, no that, nothing, doing seances and doing stuff. I've seen, for example, a blue ball of light grow and materialize in the shape of a man, then disappear, and a yellow cross materialize and move across a room. And he saw the same thing. We talked about it. I just saw my friend. That happened when I was a teenager, and my friend, I just saw him again earlier this year, and he goes, yeah, I remember that. I mean, it happened. And I'll give you this super short stuff. Before I was born, my mom would have these dreams of a man coming to her dressed in a black hat, long white sleeve shirt rolled up to the elbows, black slacks, black shoes. And she would wake up and he would walk through the wall at the foot of her bed and stand there by the foot of her bed. My mom's IQ, she passed away, but her IQ was like 150, seriously. Read 1,000 words a minute, 80% comprehension. She's a genius woman. And I said, Mom, look, come on. Were you on medications? Was this? Was that? She said no. And I asked her, and I really cross-examined her. And she said this went on for 2 years, a 2-year period, where every couple, 3-4 weeks, it would happen. She'd wake up my dad. My dad would say, talk to him. She'd say, no, won't talk to him. He would just come and stare at her in the bed. He'd walk around and go turn the light on and disappear. This went on and on and on for a couple of years until I was born. I'm in the crib in her room. She wakes up. There he comes. And he walks over in the crib, she said, stands half on the wall, half out of the wall looking at me in the crib. And she woke up my dad, turned the light on, disappeared. He never showed up again. I never told anybody about that. I never said anything to anybody. I just didn't. And when I was talking to my buddy Dave, who saw the yellow cross materialize in the air, I talked to him about astral projection one time. And he said he could do this, leaving your body. I said, no, you can't. He said, yes, you can. I said, I'll set up stuff in my room. We're going to high school together. I'll set stuff up in my room, and you come over, astral project. You tell me what these objects are, what arrangement. I mean, it was really something he couldn't guess. Next day, we're going to school, and he says, "Oh, I couldn't come over." I'm laughing. Yeah, right. Why? He said, because as I was projecting across to your house, there was a man there with a black hat, long sleeved white shirt rolled up to his elbows, black shoes, black pants. He wouldn't let me in. Now, he had no way of knowing this. Period. Now I'm just giving you little things, but what do you do with stuff like that? I mean, I got a high IQ. I'm highly educated. I'm not lying to you. This is anecdotal at best for you. What do you do with stuff like that?
What do I do with stuff like that?
Yeah, just dismiss it. It can't be true. It's not testable, or what? You know, just curious. That's all.
I'd accept that you maybe had this experience. I mean, I can't say if it did or didn't happen, so I'm like, all right, I'd be okay. Like, okay, you say you experienced that.
I did. I remember it. I remember it clearly. It scared the crap out of me too. We both ran out of the room. So, I mean, if you're an atheist, that can't happen. So you would have to conclude that I'm either lying to you, exaggerating, or I believe I saw something that I really didn't see, or something like that. You'd have to do those. But if you're an atheist, then it couldn't be that there's a supernatural realm I got in contact with. You see? And so we Christians are actually more open-minded than atheists. We're open to the physical as well as the spiritual. You're only open up to one of them.
Yeah, Random. If you go back and listen, you said that you're not open to the spiritual and God is spiritual. You like plain and simple that you won't accept any evidence for God. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're closed-minded to it, and that's exactly what the Bible says.
And what justifies that as being the right position to hold?
Yeah.
Why is that the right one to hold, or is it just one that you hold by faith?
Then you have faith, and that's immaterial, right there. So.
This is why I was saying to you earlier, Random, about having what's called a confirmed bias. Do you know what a confirmed bias is, by chance?
Can you explain it?
Yeah, so maybe that was my fault for not explaining it earlier and using the terminology. What a confirmed bias is when somebody they start with a conclusion, and then they, like you were doing, that there is no God because based on no evidence, but what you're doing is only accepting evidence that confirms your bias. So the way I usually illustrate this is, and I was going to, you know, if I claimed that your name is Stephen and you're born in Italy in 1929, okay, you would try to argue to prove that I'm wrong. You know, maybe you'd say that you have a driver's license, and I would tell you it's a fake. I had one when I was 18. You could tell me your birth certificate, and I could tell you, you know, the president has a fake one of those. I mean, you could tell me to talk to your parents, and I'll tell you they've been lying to you. Okay? A confirmed bias means that I'm going to start with a conclusion, and I am only going to accept evidence that supports the conclusion, and I will, if I don't have evidence, I'm going to look for a way to explain something to make the conclusion be true. And that's exactly what I've been trying to show you you're doing. You start with the conclusion evolution is true, even though you use evolution with a logical fallacy of equivocation, using it two different ways. Okay, because I tried to show you where I agree with, with specific, with special evolution, but not general evolution. Because one's proven scientifically and one is not. It's a bait and switch, and you're believing the bait and switch, okay, and that's the concern. So what I'm trying to say to you is I want you to be aware of your confirmed bias so that you'd learn to question the very things you believe about your belief in the natural world. Because if you have a confirmed bias, you're going to reject anything that's not going to conform to what you already are accepting as a conclusion. That's not science, that's not scientific, and that's not the proof that you've been trying to argue for. Okay? You don't believe what you believe based on evidence and proof. You believe it because it's a starting point for you. And I'm saying that based on what you were telling me earlier.
I used to be a Christian.
No, you didn't.
All right, whatever. I used to go to.
Wait. So okay, hold it. Let me address that because I don't want to.
25.
So you used to be a Christian. Is that what you say?
Right.
Okay. So your ultimate authority was God Himself. Is that what you're claiming?
That's what I believed it was, but.
Okay, then you weren't a Christian.
Believe that.
That's my point. You
can say that all day, but I was still a Christian.
No, you weren't. You don't understand what a Christian is then.
Okay.
A Christian, what God says is that a person who is in 1 John 1, you can look, they went out from among us because they were never of us. What the Bible talks very often about hypocrisy, people who think they're Christians and are not. You were not a Christian. You were someone who dealt in Christian circles. And that's the irony. So let me ask you, what happened in your church you grew up in?
What do you mean?
Did something happen you didn't like?
No, I just stopped going after a while.
Did you feel there were lots of rules?
No, not really.
Okay. Because the irony is most of the people that argue for atheism online grew up in church, and they usually, it's that they don't, either something happened in the church they grew up in, they're, just rebelling against their parents, or they didn't like the rules. But just be aware you were never a Christian biblically, not according to what the Bible says. Okay?
Okay.
I'm not trying to brush off your upbringing and what you thought, but for someone to be a Christian, their ultimate authority is God, and therefore you could not be a not Christian. And this isn't a true Scotsman fallacy, okay, that some will argue, because of the fact that there is a definition that God gives of what it means to be a Christian and how someone becomes a Christian. And by that definition, a person can't be a Christian one day and not a Christian another day.
All right. Well, what is that definition? Let's be clear. What is that definition?
So a Christian is someone who puts their ultimate trust and faith and completely trusting is God. Not their human reasoning, not evidence. They're trusting God. And they're trusting God specifically, recognizing that they're fallen creatures who have broken God's law and need to trust in what God did to be in a right state with Him. Not trusting our good works, not trusting our upbringing. And when I say upbringing, I'm speaking specifically, I was raised Jewish, and so I believed that my Judaism was going to get me into heaven, guaranteed. That was what I believed. So your genealogy is not going to get you in a right state with God. Good works or being a good person is not going to do it. It is trusting what God did on the cross that gets you in a right state with Him. And it is an ultimate trust. It's not what I think, and you could tell me if you think I'm wrong. You reasoned or maybe grew up believing in Christianity. And so you believed you were a Christian because it's what you knew, what you grew up in, or you know, what someone explained to you and it seemed to make sense at the time. Would that be accurate?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. And that's not what I'm saying the Bible teaches on what a Christian is, because your ultimate authority was not God, it was yourself. And that's the key difference. And so when you argue you used to be a Christian, it's the same thing you were doing earlier with science. And I'm going to say this, but please hear the way I'm saying it. I don't mean it to be harsh, but you're arguing from ignorance. I'm not calling you ignorant, okay?
I know the definition of argument from ignorance.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. I get cautious because some people think it's an insult. I'm not trying to insult you.
I'm up on some of the terminology we're using.
Yeah. I mean, like I said to you earlier, I think you're a really decent guy, and I enjoyed talking with you. I don't think you're an idiot, but I think there's some areas that you need to be better educated on, if that makes sense to you. And
that's why I enjoy these conversations.
Yeah, and you haven't been one of these guys that's just, there was the one guy that really wanted to try to hammer you earlier, and he never got a chance to, and I guess you didn't want to add him on Skype, and and that's not my style. That's not really Matt's style. But the thing I'm concerned with is, don't reject Christianity, true biblical Christianity, because you think you used to be a Christian. Would that be fair?
Sure, but what I was getting at was, I grew up this way, started having doubts, and it was a matter of time before I just came to the conclusion that I no longer believed. You know what I mean?
No, it makes sense. Yeah. I mean, again, I'm going to be careful with words. I mean,
so it wasn't. Go ahead.
If you're living a life pretending to be a Christian when you're not, I mean, that's called hypocrisy, and it's not. It's super common, so it's not right. Bible speaks on that more than like any other topic almost. But it's hard to live what you don't believe. Okay, so when you're suppressing things, and pretending to live some way that you're really not believing in, you're not going to continue in that for long. So it makes sense.
Well, my behavior hasn't really changed. I still think things are evil or whatever. I don't steal. I don't kill. I mean, I'm a good person. I don't cheat on my taxes. Love my wife, my kids. So the only thing that's different is that belief there.
Yeah. So let me. Tom's trying to challenge me here with what Bible translation do I use to prove the interpretation of Bible? The answer to that is I go to the Greek and the Hebrew, so I don't use translations. So I'll answer that for Tom since he was in the chat. But random, listen to what I'm saying is the difference here. It's not a matter of how you live. Listen to what you just gave to me as rationale. You haven't change the way you live, you're still a good person, basically, right? That's what you're arguing, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Well, not arguing, just kind of just throwing it out there.
And okay, I'm using the argument in a technical sense. An argument's not a bad thing. We all make arguments, right? The arguments are going to be valid or invalid. So, okay, so let me give you the test. I mean, have you ever lied?
Don't go Ray Comfort on me, man.
I'm asking because that's the
it's a script.
Is it shows the real issue. It's not a matter of trying to live a good life if we're already a criminal. Let me give you a scenario. Say you're a judge. You're good, trying to be moral judge. And you have a guy standing in front of you, and he makes the case that you should not send him to jail for murder, even though he admits he did it, and it was completely, planned out, and he did it because he didn't like the guy, but you can't send him to jail because he never raped a woman. Would you accept that as an argument?
Not go to jail for murder because you've never raped a woman? That's not exactly the same thing. So,
yeah.
No. I wouldn't accept that.
So you arguing that you're basically a good person when you're already a criminal in God's sight is the same exact argument.
I see that, okay.
You understand the point? And that's why I'm asking. That's why I asked the question of have you lied? Because here's the thing, and maybe for you this seemed, being that you kind of grew up in a Christian home, I'm guessing from what you were saying, and I don't know your upbringing, but it may seem to you to seem a little unfair that we would be punished for eternity for lying or breaking God's law. Would that be true for you?
It seems to me unfair to put it on one guy rather than having you take your punishment.
What do you mean by that?
Jesus accepting your sins as for him, onto him.
Okay. Well, that's good. That's good. That's good, and that's honest. So let me explain that and why that is. God himself took that upon himself, right? Jesus being God, no one forced that on him. It would be unjust if someone forced Jesus into something he didn't choose. He being God chose to do it. Now here's the key theologically. Jesus Christ being fully God can pay an eternal fine. Jesus Christ being fully man can pay the fine for men. And that is really, really important. And I don't know if you were in earlier when Matt was explaining some of the things with the resurrection and why that's important.
No, I haven't been in the whole time, but I've heard him discuss that before.
Okay. And so that's the issue being is God can take that upon himself because of his nature. Because he's an eternal being. And the reason that our crimes against him have such a consequence is because, again, of his nature. Because he's infinitely holy and infinitely just and infinitely good. Because of that, when we violate his law, it has an infinite consequence. Does that make some sense to you at all?
Sure.
Okay. So that's why that we have a consequence, and that's why only Jesus Christ, God and man, being fully God, fully man, can pay that fine. Okay. And so, look, there's a lot of churches that don't teach the truth. I don't know what church you grew up in. I'm not asking for you to give names, but I'm not going to take for granted that your church that you were in taught you the truth. Okay. But I'd strongly encourage.
Baptist.
Say again?
Baptist.
Well, that doesn't. I would be Baptist, and that's not descriptive enough anyway. It really isn't.
Gotcha.
Because it doesn't tell what was being taught from a pulpit. Even if they're from a good denomination, doesn't mean that that's what was being taught. So the issue I'd really say is I would challenge you to get a Bible and maybe you have one. Read it. Examine it with the evidence that you're looking for. When I became a Christian, and I shared with you, I came from a Jewish background. I still sought to disprove the Bible. One of the ways I went to do that, because if I could prove the Bible false, then I know that it's not true. That gets into the thing Matt was explaining to you earlier. But one of the ways I did that is just knowing the way people write is I looked at the genealogies in the Bible. You know, all those so-and-so begot so-and-so begot so-and-so. You know, most people kind of ignore that. Huh?
Those pages most people skip.
Exactly. It's the pages everyone skips. And what I did was I started running the calculations, because if someone is making up a story, okay, that's an area where they're gonna fudge it. Example, the Book of Mormon. If you look at all the wars in the Book of Mormon, there's so many people dying that you can't possibly have a birth rate at that time to account for the number of people that died. And if that becomes a problem, that's the sort of thing I was looking for. And I had a way of proving it, which was the flood. If I could show that anyone lived beyond the flood, then I can prove that this is made up. And you can't. When you run all the numbers, you end up having Methuselah, who's Noah's grandfather, dying in the very year of the flood. And so you don't have anyone.
When he dies, it will come.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the meaning of his name. And so you have a case where putting my full trust in Christ, but I still examined the Bible. I did work in textual criticism, again, to examine the validity of it. And that's what I'm challenging you, get a copy, read through the New Testament, see what it actually teaches. What I want to challenge you.
Which version would you recommend? I'm currently reading the KJV. I'm in Exodus.
Well, if you're reading, you can read the KJV. That's a fine translation as long as you have a dictionary alongside you for the words we don't use anymore. I read out of most of my study is done out of the ESV, but the version I prefer in English would be the Holman. I think the most literal is probably going to be the New American Standard Bible.
That's what I use.
Yeah, that's going to be the most literal, I think.
Literal and smooth.
Yeah, the New American Standard Bible.
Okay.
Not the New American Standard, but the New American Standard Bible.
Yeah.
NASB.
And so I'd say, do that. Here's the thing I want to challenge you to do. I would challenge you to understand Christianity to a point where you can argue and people are going to say, yes, you're accurate. Here's what. So I wrote a book on recently that just came out called "What Do They Believe?" It's on different world religions. All right. So when I wrote the section on Judaism, I gave it to some rabbis. I happen to live next town over to the largest Talmudic studies on the East Coast, so it made it easy for me to go to a bunch of rabbis, give them the lessons, and say, "Am I accurate?" I did the same thing with a cardinal in the Catholic Church, some imams that I got to know, and leaders in Jehovah's Witness morning. So what did I do? I went to those religions and said, "Am I accurate on what I'm saying you believe?" You want to be able to get to that point. If you're going to argue against Christianity, you want to be able to say, I can argue what Christianity actually believes, not what I grew up thinking it believed. Do you understand the difference there?
I get you.
And so I challenge you to get into a Bible and actually read what it says. And some of the confirmed bias that you have with rejecting the supernatural, I challenge you to question that, because you're never going to get the answers to the questions you're asking as long as you reject the measuring rod, right? If you're using the wrong measurement, back to that argument of how many feet does 8 gallons of water weigh, you can never measure 8 gallons of water in feet. And as long as you hold to that measuring rod, you're never going to get the answers to the proof that you're arguing that you want to seek. And I think you are literally trying to figure this stuff out. And so that's my challenge to you.
Okay. And with that, do we want to...
Thanks, guys. Thanks for your time.
we want to exit. Let's exit out here of the hangout here because I got a couple of things I want to do here.
Random, I'll just say this. You know, you can, if you ever want to continue a conversation with either Matt or myself, Matt could be reached over at carm.org. I could be reached at strivingforeternity.org. Both of us would be willing to spend time talking with you.
Absolutely.
You know, if you're reading the Bible, you have questions, you can shoot us some, you know, just shoot us the question. We'll try to answer it.
Okay. And that's why I enjoy conversations like this. Reading the Bible, some of it just jumps out at you like, what the hell is that? And there's no other way I can put it. Sorry.
But you're right. You're right.
And then there's other parts of it. What is going on here?
Yep. That's right. That's normal.
Hey, I'll tell you what. If
there were giants.
I will tell you
giants.
What. I will get you a Bible that will help you. How's that? If you contact me, I'll put a link in to the chat of where to get a hold of me. Okay, where you can contact me. And what I'm going to do is I will send you a New American Standard Bible where it'll have some explanations in it. I'll send that free of charge to you, okay? And that might help.
That's cool. I can pick one. I mean, I don't usually like just taking stuff from people. I don't want to take advantage.
Well,
you know what I mean?
That is what will keep you out of a right standing with God. Right there. Not that you got to take a Bible from me, but the idea that you can't accept a free gift. Okay? Because salvation is a free gift. It's a free gift because I want to help you in understanding these things because they are very important. And the Bible that I'm offering to send is not an inexpensive Bible, so you might not pick it up. And so that's why I'm willing to send it to you. All right?
Okay. I've got a cousin who's actually an apologist pastor like Matt. So we have interesting conversations all the time.
There's no one like
Matt.
Matt.
I've sent me a bunch of books before.
There's no one like Matt.
I'd say who he is, but that would totally let people know who I am. So,
it's all right.
Ask Matt's wife. She'll tell you. There's no one like Matt. Yeah,
for sure.
That's back to.
I mean, with the argumentation instead of being exactly like Matt.
Yeah, but contact me seriously.
Okay. I will. Thanks.
I don't know if there's a way for me to private message you. Otherwise, I would. I see.
King James is not out of date in the text. No, it's not out of date. It's just these and thous. They don't talk like that. So, anyway.
Your heart doesn't wax cold ever?
No, it usually waxes warm.
Yes.
Wax what's warm. A hoary-headed man?
Yeah.
So are we done tonight, or?
Yes, we are done. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Oh.
And if you want to come on in. Wow, we still have 50. We got 51 viewers still. Sorry, guys, if you want to come in, come on in. Click on the link. Still be there. We'll be here for a few more hours, just talking and chatting. So let's see. Where do I stop it? Oh, here we go. Bye-bye, everyone.